and now I'm switching to English, which will be our working language. Hello to everybody and welcome to 16th Kino Otok Isola Cinema International Film Festival and Pro Otok, program dedicated to film professionals. We are glad to host you at today's event Skillshare with the title How to Get a Successful Film Project. This is the event that we are organizing for the first time with the support of the Center for Creativity. And we are really glad that this partnership happened because it enabled us this kind of a larger event with more guests and more days. And I will just pass a word shortly to the representative, Mika Cimolini, who will just greet you also shortly.
Thank you very much. I would just like to welcome you. I won't have a really long speech. We are also very glad that we can be a part of Kino Otok, which is one of the first festivals during these really difficult times, especially for the film industry. This is also our kind of theme, film industry, how to make film industry in Slovenia, how to really make it into an industry that is worthwhile, and how can you make projects that maybe are not only subsidized but actually can have a life on its own, film projects. I know it's a difficult debate, especially in these times where we are, the film industry also faces problematic times in terms of subsidies and and problems with Film Center of Slovenia. But I'm really looking forward to opinions of our guests of how can you make a successful film project in terms of more than just maybe money, but also in terms of reference and how can you make it on your own? What kind of things do you need to make it? So I'm really looking forward, and I hope we have a good debate. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mika. I will just shortly introduce today's guests because let me first say it was quite a bumpy ride to get them all here due to very complex travel procedures in this time of Corona. So we managed to get 2 guests here, and the other ones are joining us online. So this is our guests online here that you see. And the first guest I will introduce is the Slovenian filmmaker Siniša Gačić, who is live with us today. And online we have the director Eloy Domínguez Serén from Spain. Hello. Hi, Eloy.
Hi.
Director Marko Đorđević is joining us shortly, but right now we already have online producer Miloš Pušić from Serbia.
Hi, everyone.
And the one person who did manage to arrive after a very complicated travel, and that happened just 2 hours ago, is editor and filmmaker Dragan von Petrović, who will moderate today's event. Thank you all for being with us. So I will just also say to the audience in the room, you will get a chance to pose questions towards the end of the event. But I'm also inviting the audience, anyone who is following us via live stream, you can place your questions, comments on Facebook comments, and we will answer you, or we will send your questions to the moderator, and they will talk about them. So please be active. And then the last thing I just want also to say about the event is also happening tomorrow. There is one-to-one meetings organized, so if anybody is interested to meet each of our guests individually, ask them questions, like very specifically go more deeply into something you're interested in, there is a possibility to meet all of our guests. The only difference is that Siniša will be here available in Izola, and the other guests will be available online. Towards the end of the event, we will pass around the paper with the schedule, and you can just write your contact in, and we will organize the meeting between you. That is it from me. So please, Dragan, take over. Thank you. And I'm inviting Siniša to replace me on this seat.
Well, hello to everyone. Like it's already announced, Anna said that we will now introduce you the projects that, based on the subject, how to make successful films, successful projects. What is should be added is that it's not only successful projects, but successful projects made under the uncertain conditions, circumstances of making these projects. So that is the one thing that it's together. It's connecting all these projects that are different projects, but they have this aspect of making it under uncertain circumstances. And we have projects that, in a way, are adventures through the filmmaking, adventures to the creation. And those adventures will take us from Western Sahara, and the man who will lead us through this adventure is Eloy Domínguez Serén, who is here with us, communicating with us from the worldwide known city of Santiago de Compostela, right, in Galicia. Then we have a dynamic duo from Serbia, Miloš Pušić from worldwide known city of Novi Sad, and Marko will be from worldwide known city of Belgrade. And with us is Siniša Gačić who is in Izola, which is a city really close to the worldwide known Portorož, right? So in this neighborhood of Izola. So Eloy will be leading us through Western Sahara, Miloš and Marko through the depths of Serbian province. And we will start with Siniša because he will lead us through the intimate world of the mafia, or let's say Gamora killers. So let's start with that, right? Siniša will present his projects in this case study, and then the other two projects will do their stuff. Questions will be available in the second part of the panel, which comes after this introduction. So Siniša, please lead us through the adventures of making a film about Daughter of Gamora.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Kino Otok, for inviting me. It's really a pleasure to be here. Hello, everybody on link. I will present you, my last film is called The Daughter of Gamora. It was premiered last year in Sarajevo. And it's a character-driven film in which main character is first lady that was killer in Gamora clans. Killer is also used, the word killer is also used in Italian language. They use it just the same as in English. And it basically means that killers are the left and right hand of the bosses of the cartel. I will show you the clip. The lady that I was filming was in jail for 24 years. We were filming her since the first step after 24 years when she stepped out of the prison, and we were following her for 4 years. Her name is Cristina Pinto. She was 21 when she went to prison, and she was 46 when she came out, 47. And I was thinking that the best for you to meet the character is to show you one scene when she, right after coming from prison, goes to her daughter and trying to have a relation with her grandchild. So let's talk. I will just put the scene and I'll just put it on pause when I think that you saw enough to meet Cristina.
Is it going?
Vincenzo, nonna, perché non scendi un attimo? Vincenzo!
But you have to share screen.
Vieni qua, Vincenzo. Vieni, Annoni, vieni con me, Vincenzo. Sì, bella mamma, però ti posso dire una cosa, ti vedo molto più organizzata la mattina.
Mamma, sai che cos'è?
Di dovresti andare a letto più presto e svegliarti molto più presto.
Ma non sapevi, ci deve essere mezza mattina.
No, ma come vedi, però non è che sei molto veloce.
Ma chi sto? Io che faccio? Metto avanti...
Vincenzo!
Vedete, avete tutto in mano.
Io guarda qua. Dove sto? Dove sto pure? A te la vedo, guarda. Guarda qua. Quanti anni hai adesso, Vincenzo?
Vincenzo c'ha 2 anni e mezzo. Quindi il 18 settembre fa 3 anni.
Il 19 settembre?
18 ma...
Scemo. Dammi un bacio. Madre. Madre, uno schiaffo. Vai a cavallo te. Vai a cavallo. Sozzone. Senti, la nonna ti veste? Sì? Sì? Ti veste, cioè, ti un po' con me? Andiamo dal nonno? Vogliamo andare dal nonno, voglio?
Non sono mai conosciuto. Intanto la siamo aiutamente occupata e come? Poi dillo per una studiare. E poi dico, ma oggi poi...
Ma come mai questa cosa che non...
Ma chi nessuno so a pigliare, nessuno non lo piccini, è normale, ma...
E chiamiamo il nonno con il telefono, eh? Mi ha nonno? Sì? Nonno, dov'è il nonno? Nonno! E mi chiamare il nonno? Sì?
Per quale la non è accusata a te?
A me? Allora, non è accusata, che ce la portano proprio loro. Per ci pigliate, non sa. Chic. Poi mi sono preso un Sant'Agnello e prosciutto, perché la nonna va pazza col prosciutto e parmigiano. Che se mi hanno fatto la così mia. Allora, tendo a domicilio.
Tendo a domicilio?
Tendo a domicilio, contro Cudolo Salvatore e Guglielmo Salvatore. Poi mi hanno accusato di rifiuti tossici insieme a Kako. Poi mi hanno accusato di essere specializzati in armi sofisticate e appartenente al gruppo di fuoco banda armata del clan Perrelli. Voi sapete cosa proprio? Perché sai che non mi guarda sotto? Già me l'avevi fatti tanti anni fa, quando tu c'è, lei ti disse no mamma, a queste domande non ti rispondo. Mo sei più grande, però ti posso rispondere perché sei sposata, c'hai bambini, non sei adolescente. Perché dalle adolescenti si fanno delle scelte, bravo. Sì, mi è piaciuto. Mi è piaciuto e mi è piaciuto pure il potere. Perché il potere della conosce, mamma Michele si viene vicino e spara. La gente si abbiamo paura, perché uno si fa là. Ti ripieno e ti vedono le cose.
Okay, I'm sorry that I didn't share the screen to guys on Vimeo, on Zoom. But I hope you got a film, you got a link, so unmute. Guys, I'm sorry I didn't share the screen with you, but I hope you have a link so you'll be able to see the film. So, Cristina Pinto is pretty much known lady in Italy. She's now popular because of her story. She was filmed by Sky Italia, and she is in the news frequently in Italy. I met her through my colleague, Anka Pirš, my colleague that works with me on television, which got married to the village that is in front of the city of Naples. That's called Pozzulli. It's a small fishing village. And it's interesting that the last prison that she was sitting in is also in the same village, Pozzulli. So she really had, in the first scene when she walked out of the prison, she really literally had 30 minutes walk to home. Cristina, so because Anka Pirš already knew her for quite some years, because Cristina spent last few years, I think 5 or 7 years, on the semi-open system of the prisons, so she was able to be out of the prisons from 7 in the morning to 7 in the evening. She was working in a bar at that time, and this, my friend, really made a nice friendship with her. So when I entered the story, I didn't have much problems with building trust, because trust was already built through Anka, through all of those years. So Cristina and me really hooked up fast, and honestly were really like in the first few days. How was I? My principle of last years of my filmmaking, I'm doing observational documentaries where I talk with people directly on the first talk. I ask them for full access, and I don't want any of the scenes to be interrupted while with the argument that we won't film this. I talk to them, and I always give them right of veto, but right of veto only on the last edit which I make. I don't show them material, and I don't show them nothing until the last cut for me is made. Then I invite them to see the film, and they have right of veto of any scene. Until now, nobody had any vetoes yet. It was interesting with Cristina. She really liked the film because this film is not about her crime stories. It's more about her private life and building a relationship with her daughter, with her partner, and with her grandchildren. And never in Italy, nobody asks Cristina about her private things. They only want to hear how she was robbing stores and how she was shooting people in knees or in guts or whatever, wherever she would shoot them. I was filming the film with Canon DSLR camera, which is the last film I will make with DSLR camera. I don't want to use it anymore because it's too frustrating to film with it. I'm happy that I bought myself camera, and I'm really sorry that I didn't bought it before, but I didn't have money before. It was interesting with Cristina because while we started filming, we never knew when we will stop filming. For me, the biggest question with observational documentaries, as I make them, is to point out the moment when you will say the film is filmed now. Let's go to edit it. It was interesting with Cristina when we filmed. I don't want to spoil, but when we filmed the last scene, it was clear that this is the last scene, so we stopped filming. It took you 4 years for that, right? Yeah, it was on the 4th year, so it was Cristina came out of prison in 2014. We were filming her until 2018, and film was finished in 2019. What really was a great help for this film was I went out for a drink and I saw a friend, and she said it's tomorrow, I think, or in 3 days, it's a deadline to send your rough cut to Sarajevo Rough Cut Boutique. And it was a problem for us because we were working on this film. Anka speaks fluent Naples, because this is not, it's hard to understand it even you know Italian language. And Anka is really fluent in Naples speaking. And we translated all the scenes that were interesting for us in Slovenian language. And Doku Ravkat Boutique demanded us that we should have in 3 days translated, 100 minutes of film into English, and we couldn't do it. That I want to encourage you that if you do some of Ravkat or any other sessions that you want to send your film, it doesn't need to be finished 100%, because if people likes it, they will look through your fingers. Is it the same? It's not there. So we were accepted without translation, and the selectors there were watching the material in Italian and didn't understand nothing, and gave us 1 week to send them translation. So they gave us another 7 days so we could translate it. And it was a great help for us, and I think this kind of Ravkat sessions are really useful for us filmmakers, but not in a very serious way. We usually show film to our friends on the last phase of the film, and I take it just the same, but there are the professionals that comes to watch your Ravkat and really take time and their energy and their passion to film, to help you to understand the way you want to make film, and to help you with some really philosophical speaks that nobody tells you directly nothing what to do, but you really talk about film a lot. And I think that this film would be really much more boring than it is now, with the help of the 2 sessions that we have in a Ravkat Boutique. And it was also the great thing that we won the award, the major award at the session. So we got money to make post-production in Bucharest. It was grading studio that is used for all of the HBO production in Eastern Europe. And it was great to work with. It was 25,000 euros, and then it was a great experience to work with professionals that are really good in their job. The first, I started producing film throughout my company, but in the middle, after the development, where we got 15,000 euros, I needed somebody with the international, because this film was, in my mind, at the beginning, thought to be internationally produced, and I asked for help a Slovenian producer, Dunja Klemens, which is the only Slovenian producer that got Oscar for No Man's Land. Everything was easier with her because she got a co-producer from Rome. That was really nice to us. He took all the bureaucracy that was needed to talk with Christina and to do the contract with her, to arrange her some money, and to we were lucky, because they provided us also the audio post-production. And what else I could say? I think that's for now, it's okay, and I will just spare them the minutes to be able to answer the questions. Thank you for now.
Okay, so we're now jumping from the Napoli to, I guess, to Galicia maybe, or to Kragujevac. Where are we going, huh? Let's go to the Galicia. Eloy, can you hear us?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah? Now
yeah,
we do.
okay.
So please tell us about something about Western Sahara.
Mm-hmm.
You can
First
introduce
of all,
your project.
thank you, Siniša, for the presentation. I wanted to ask very quickly, just, is it, she's from Pozzuoli?
Yes, she's from Pozzuoli.
Okay, because I was living in Italy and was in Pozzuoli several times, and yeah, it's an amazing place, really, really powerful.
You're still alive?
Yeah, very nice people there. So yes, my film was shot in the Sahara Desert, in a very isolated part of the Sahara. Actually, they call it the desert of the desert. This is, since you mentioned no man's land, this is also a no man's land. It's in the border between 3 different countries: Algeria, Western Sahara, and Mauritania, also close to the border with Mali. Very briefly, I will explain the context of these people. Western Sahara used to be a Spanish colony until 1975. Morocco, for decades, claimed their ownership of this land. even though the international community has never accepted this right of owning this land. I don't know if this is the right word, but in '75, when Franco was dying, the King of Morocco organized what's called the Green March with hundreds of thousands of civilians and soldiers to occupy this territory. And basically what Spain did, it was a moment of fragility because Franco was dying. So basically Spain abandoned these people and they let them be under occupation of Morocco. There was a 15 years long war between the local people and the Moroccan army. And basically during this war, half of the population escaped towards the desert, and Algeria offered them as a provisional temporary settlement there in the middle of the desert. So 45 years after, this conflict has not been solved. Half of the Sahrawi population live under occupation in their own land, under the occupation of Morocco, and half of the population live in refugee camps. This film was shot in the refugee camps. I arrived there for the first time in 2014 as a volunteer teacher in a very small film school there. It was a very exciting project because it was going to be the first generation of young people from the camps to have access to cinema, not only as creators, but also as viewers. The first time I was there, 2014, there was almost no electricity in most of the camps. No access to internet, so it has developed very quickly in these last 6 years. As you know, I talk a lot, so I will try to be brief. As a good Spanish, I speak a lot and quick.
Just shortly, you said that you just mentioned now that these people are, they didn't make any films before, but they didn't watch any films, some of them, right?
Exactly. The beautiful thing about this is that they didn't have Western view in any way or prejudices about how they look at things. And the idea was that they were going to make their own films. The first time I was there was to help these young people to make their own films, which was a very beautiful experience. They made 12 short films about very different topics. And I came back several times. And through these 4 years of relationship, I continued helping them to make their own films. And I made this film, Hamada, in collaboration with them. So yes, I will show the prologue of the film because something very difficult for us. This is I'm Spanish, but it's a Swedish, Norwegian, German co-production shot in Algeria, something very complex about a quite unknown conflict. So one of the first doubts was how to explain where these people are without being informative. I wanted to take a very intimate and emotional approach and try not to be informative because I thought that it could be very messy and complex to explain this conflict. So we decided to make this prologue, which is based in a dream that the protagonist, one of them, told me. So one night the electricity failed because every time it was very hot, electricity would just not work anymore. It was 49 degrees or something like that night. So I was in the room with him. He told me this dream, and I told him, "Fuck, Ahmed, this is what we are looking for. How to explain this place? Can you please tell me again?" And I will shoot it. And this is the result. This is the prologue of the film. It's an introduction to the place. Let's hope that this sharing screen works. This is the first time I'm going to do it, but it should work. Can you see this?
حلمت البارح حلمة وضعتها دريزة وضعي ويمني يعني وعيشي تميت لله وانا ساكي فوق الرملة وحس بحر قريب مني والشمس حتى هي شيء قريب مني حارة حارة حارة. قد ما زادت حرارة الشمس قد أنا ما عاد زين عني نقوم قصد الحارة. جيت باغي نوقف، لا هو أنا ما بديت نوقف. جيت نحرك يدي، لا هو يدي ما يحرك. جيت أحرك قراعي، لا هو ما يحرك. بركت عليا باقي ما عرفتها، خلعت. جيت باغي نصقى لي حد يعاوني، لا هو أنا وحشيشتي ما يمرق منها الصوت. لا هو عاد صوت البحر يبعد عني، والشمس تزيد تقرب، حرارة الشمس تزيد على جسمي. تميت لين تفرقلت. لا هو ما خالق البحر، خالق لا القبار والشمس حارة حارة. بالتالي ما عرفت يا كاني كنت نهدرز، يا كاني كنت نحلم، يا كاني اللي طرالي هو شنو.
حي اسمه
اليوم
حق
اليوم هذاك ياس ايش عندك هذا اليوم؟
Okay. Yeah. So for me, both scenes that you saw, which is part of the prologue, would explain many of the doubts we had, like how to explain this place without being purely informative, how to explain that this community comes from the sea, because they come from the coast, and now for 45 years have been in the center of this vast desert. And then this conversation they have in the end, what day is today? The same as yesterday. And so why do you want to know it? Do you have anything to do or what? It's also the core of the film, because the film is about young people living in the middle of this absolute vast desert where they have, unfortunately, there's no jobs, no employment. They cannot go anywhere because they are refugees. And it's very interesting because in one side, they are in the middle of the desert and there's no limit, but at the same time, as refugees, they cannot move from there. So it was very, very interesting to see this invisible wall, which is the desert itself. So this prologue would concentrate a lot of the topics we wanted to talk about. And so in the beginning, I have to say that I was there by myself, and I shot the film by myself. I did the camera, the sound, production, if you can call it like that, field production and so on. Of course, in close relationship with them, collaborating with them in the sense that we did a lot of things together for 9 months, along 4 years. We were working in construction, rebuilding houses that were destroyed during floods. I was collaborating with the hospital, with the school. So the film was a small part of a bigger life project, if you want. So in that sense, it was very organic just to make this film. Many times I would just, I was with them, I would ask, can you film this? Or they would say, sometimes I would ask, what do you want to film today? What would you like to show me? What do you like to show to a Spanish guy? And they would actively propose situations. For example, like this conversation that you saw right now, what day is today? It was their idea, like, yeah. So in terms of production, since the conversation is also about production, I cannot say much because I'm a guy with a camera in that sense. You know, I go and I film as much as I can, and then I try to put it together and I show it to someone who might help me to get money for post-production. This is my concept of production. In this case, I was very lucky because a Swedish company was very interested in the film. So little by little, they got some money for the people in the camps, first of all, then to translate the dialogues because they are in their language, which is Hassaniya, dialect of Arabic. So the first money we got was for the camps, then for post-production, and that was more or less all. It was made with very little money, but at the same time, it was not needed as much because I would do the DOP, sound guy, and everything. I agree with Siniša about the workshops. It was very strong for me, the two experiences I had in the beginning. The first was at Berlinale, at Dock Station. It was the first time I shared some footage. It was a very fragile project still. I didn't know what type of film I was doing because I had hours and hours and hours of footage, and I didn't really know what was the story, but I knew our experience together, our time together was very precious. But at Berlinale, it was the first time I had to explain the film I was doing. It was not with my producers anymore, like who trust me blindly. It was in front of people who didn't know me, and I had to really reflect on what I was doing. And then the second time was at the Vision du Réel, which is a festival in Switzerland. It was more like a pitching, so we had to be more accurate and more precise. And as Siniša said, the feedback they give you is mainly philosophical in some way. And this is for me, it was very strong. It was very existential to understand my role as a director and the type of film I was doing. I would like to show only one more thing. I don't know if I have time, do I? It's very, very quick because the main topic in the origin of the film was cars, you know? It's a paradox because there's no roads, they can go anywhere, but there's cars absolutely everywhere. And even the story of how the cars get there is fascinating. It's totally illegal, of course, it's dangerous. They have to bring them from Spain. You know, they have this joke, we have all the cars that you guys in Spain don't want. And this is fucking true because I come from a small village here in Galicia. And once I was filming cars because I started this film filming cars, you know, yes, cars, and then taxi drivers or mechanics and so on. And once I saw the car of the electrician of my village there, you know, in Algeria, in the middle of the desert.
Eloy,
So,
you know how they say, show, don't tell.
Yeah. Let's go. 1 second. I will have to find the scene. It's here. Okay, I will share now. Here. Here. And there we go. This is just a scene to show how deeply they know cars.
Mercedes. Nissan. Toyota. Nissan. Mercedes. Mitsubishi. this.
So this is Lafdal. He was a neighbor, and he told me he had this ability. And so I challenged him to prove it. And I gave him a microphone and the headphones, which he would use because he's a freak sound, even though he didn't know. But through the school, he realized would come to my classes and he would realize that he loves sound. So I would lend him my equipment many times. You know, you could see the guy recording goats or camels or people singing and so on. So once he told me about this, and I told him, okay, let's see if it's true, you know. And again, it was brilliant for the film because through the whole film, even though it's about 3 young people, the link between all of them is their friendship, but also cars. Cars have a meaning for each of them, and for these guys, it's like that. I don't know if I'm out of time now.
Okay, just please tell us, the name of your film is Hamada. Just explain the word Hamada for those who didn't see the first shot of the film, the title.
True. In the beginning of the film, we explain the 2 meanings of Hamada. In one side is a very geographical one, which is a type of desert where they live. You know, this desert is not the typical with dunes and a lot of sand. It's even though you see those dunes in the prologue, where they live is really flat and stony and hard, you know, like I used to play football with these guys there, and, you know, I was bleeding all the time. It's really an aggressive type of desert, but at the same time, it means nothing, emptiness. Hamada, the word itself means this. And this is what they feel about this place, you know, there's nothing to do, nowhere to go. It's about this young generation who basically see how one day is the same the day before, one day and another day, and 1 week and years. So this idea of nothing, emptiness, it was very powerful. That's why we decided
But you have good circumstances to develop the skill of recognizing cars by sound, right? It's really good for that. Okay, so maybe we should go to the third project now, and I think we have one interesting situation here because Siniša and Eloy said that they have great experience with the workshops, and I know from some conversations that our other 2 speakers maybe have different opinion on this, if they want to share it. So we're not proving any agendas, but we're sharing experiences, so it's good to have maybe clash of opinions, if you want to have clash, Miloš and Marko. On this, I personally I agree with two of you. I had also some great experiences of some of the workshops, but you know, every medal has 2 sides. Is that also can be said in English? Maybe, maybe. Okay. So let's see also, you know, your opinion about it. What's advantage of that? What's maybe disadvantage in by your opinion or experience? So from depths of Western Sahara, we're going to the depths of Kragujevec, village next to Kragujevec, right? And Marko is from that area, and Miloš is impressed by that area, I guess. So they collaborate on this film. They can tell us now how they start collaboration and short presentation of the project.
Okay,
sorry, my morning laughter, moj jutarnji smeh. Unlike 2 first films that are documentaries, this is the feature fiction film.
Okay, let's talk about funds and workshops a bit later. But yeah, we have, I think, we'll tell you what we think about most of those things. But the thing that's important for us is that we made a film, and I think that we are making films for ourselves and for our audience. And we are trying not to be focused on festivals and funds, but to be true to ourselves. So this is Marko's first feature film, and I was lucky to hop on that train at the half of the process as a producer. So I'll show you the scene from the film, which made me believe in it and which made me want to be part of it. So that's it, and then we'll talk later. Marko, maybe you can start talking about everything after the scene.
Okay.
Do you see this?
Yes.
Okay.
There's no sound.
Miloš,
Molim.
we need a sound.
You don't hear sound?
Yeah. Don't, so.
Sorry.
Yeah, okay. Please. Put it at the beginning, yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Still no sound.
Again, we don't have a sound, I think, or?
You don't have a sound?
No.
Maybe, no, it's not connected with you, okay?
I hear the sound here, but maybe something about sharing options. Let me check.
Just try to fix it. I will just add something to the audience that maybe don't know. The actor that we see is Filip Đurić, maybe the most talented actor currently in Serbia. But the other actor is Nebojša Glogov, like the biggest legend of this middle generation of Serbian actors, and this is his last scene in his life, unfortunately. We can speak more later about it, how you got him in this role.
Let's try it now.
Imaš mozak da isključiš. Zato imaš problem sa reakcijom. I opet te pitam šta je sramota što ja ovo pričam? A? Pošto vidim da mi sve vreme nešto sklanjaš pogled, nešto. Ispadaš glup. Glup. To što ti hoćeš, to je glupo što se od tvog rođenog tela ti sebe se stidiš. 28 godina imaš, čoveče, da to nisi obavio. Sramota, bre. Sramota. Da, bilo je tu prilike. A si ti to sve propustio. Šta je bilo? Kiks neki? A? Nije ti se digao? Ili si svršio odmah? Dejane, opet te pitam, je li ovo sramota nešto što ja ovdje pričam? Pošto vidim da mi sklanjaš pogled stalno, šta ti je? Mora pričaš sa mnom, čoveče. Ako neće pričaš da prekidam odmah. Dobro, to je... Velika si ti maza, bre, znaš? Velika. Ne bi čovjek rekao kad te gledao tako veliki, krupan čovjek, ali si maza unutra. Ajde.
Doviđenja.
Doviđenja. I zovi tvoju majku da mi uđe ovo.
Evo.
Let me tell you something about the project. I mean, it's so difficult for me to make a film, I suppose, as it is for everybody. So I try to skip this explanation part that comes with applying to funds. So I decided to. I was thinking that when you write a script and you apply to film center here in Serbia, that gives you the money. It's so difficult to make the scripts that they want, I believe, or I was in constant search for right form for the film, so I was trying to avoid explanations. I don't know how to. It was too much already for me to find this film, and it was so difficult to explain to other people. And also, I don't believe in explaining this film when making in the beginning to people who are not from here, because it's so much in the words here and it's so much in the nuances, and it was so difficult to I think it will be possible, but it will be great effort to explain this film. So the scenes, it all seems really banal and simple, too simple maybe, and I was also in constant fear that it's too simple. So I couldn't, get all my hopes or all my confidence down in explaining this film. So I applied for short film funds. I made a short film. This scene is the most straight up scene in this film. Straight scene in this film. Straight film. In this, I mean, it's a classical way.
From the short film.
It's from a short film, yes. Okay. And then we decided that I got some money from this my hometown Kragujevac that Dragan said I'm from there. So we started making the big film, feature-length film. But the producers were not didn't understand me like Miloš. Me and Miloš are in a way similar, really. It's so because Serbia is so. Here is so cheap. You have friends, you have also you have this actor Nebojša Glogovac, but you can pay him, and also you can interest him with the script you make. There are not that many good scripts around here, I believe. So it's in a way easy to get the actor if you write good scene.
Marko, just to people to understand your project, you are Miloš.
Yes.
You can just explain how did you actually manage to have Nebojša Glogovac, who was the biggest star of Serbian cinema, in your film that was really low budget. If you explain how you recruit him for the film, I think people will understand the level of production of your film, and maybe also the aesthetics connected with this level of production.
Yes. It's so difficult in these 20 minutes, to talk about how stupid I think everything in Serbia works in film productions, because there are no fancy productions, I believe, and it's all shit. It's all small. Even though if you have $1 million, it's so stupid. So I believe that that's my conviction, that it's so stupid to have that much money to make films in Serbia. So I was thinking that one day I was walking around with my parents who came to Belgrade and lived in Belgrade, and my aunt came there, and they said, why don't you call Glogovac, Nebojša Glogovac, the actor that you saw in this clip, was sitting in a cafe, and we were walking by, and they said, why don't you call? They knew I had a role.
Sorry, to be clean, you were walking on the street, he was sitting in the cafe, and they said, why don't you call him for the film, right?
Why don't you call him for the film? Yes.
Okay.
And I was thinking, why not? He's a good actor, and he's the best one around. So it would be interesting. I was thinking also that these scenes are so small in a way, so close to me, that nobody would understand them. So only Philip, the main actor, who is my friend also, and Ivana, who is the girl, never mind. So the other main actor.
Okay, but the main actors are from the same town like you, Kragujevac, right?
That's yes, my
so
friends.
So the whole crew is from the Kragujevac, the actor crew, except this big actor, okay?
Yes, this big, and the Jasna Đuričić, who is also from Novi Sad, from Miloš, hometown. So they said, why don't you call him? And I decided to send him this role, the scene, the script. So I suppose he didn't read the whole script, of course, but he read the scene that I sent him, fortune teller scene that you have seen now, and he really liked it. He was also a man of not too many words. He said, that's good. But I know you know it, so that's the text he wrote me, and I want to be a part of your film. So, he, of course, and that was easy, to shoot when you have talented actor, and I really do believe that when you make this kind of films that are chamber films, mostly set in apartments or houses, it is really cheap to make them. I mean, I don't see, you know. So that's the Rolovec, you know, he wanted to be a part of it because he liked the script.
And that also, Miloš, influenced the production in a way, right? Because you didn't get any support until this actor died, right?
Well, Marko, it's a bit different. Marko made a short movie, then he wanted to make a full feature, and that's the period when Marko and I still didn't work together, and basically no one wanted to support the movie. There were a bunch of producers, our colleagues, who were all, in a way, behaving badly to the movie. They didn't want to support him. They didn't see anything promising to it. It couldn't go to, I don't know, film funds anywhere. It was really, at that time, some sort of very specific movie. But I loved it when I saw the material that they shot, and we started working together. And first we managed to shoot the whole movie without any support, without any state funds. We found also a co-producer that was a rental company that helped us with the equipment we needed to shoot the movie. And basically we had all the material. We started editing the film, and at that moment we didn't know exactly what should we do. We were looking for money for post-production. Only after we finished the whole movie, and unfortunately Nebojša Glogovac died in the meantime, we received money from some small money from Film Center of Serbia at the end of our project. But basically film was completed till that moment. We only had to do sound and picture post-production.
Sorry, but just to be clear, maybe they recognized that's pretty much maybe possibility that because this is the last film or one of the last films of Nebojša Glogovac, maybe that's why you got support, right? Not because they
would have been so bad. I mean, in a way, because it would be so bad that the only reason. But I believe that they liked something. You know, I was also thinking that, I was also thinking that when you show the film, that when you complete the film, and then it's not about like somebody can like it. I was also thinking. Also, Nebojša was a big deal, I suppose. That.
Yeah, but what was important at that time, as I remember, Marko, that everyone was like, okay, it's a small, almost student film, and the guys were having fun, and that's basically it. Let's support it in some way with some small money, but they were not fans of our movie.
Yes.
And then we had a big premiere at the Outdoor Film Festival in Belgrade, where we won main award, and after that we had the international premiere at Rotterdam. And from that point, all those guys who were not supporting the film became the best friends of our film. Everybody loves it now.
Because people out of Serbia are not familiar with that. What happened with your premiere in Belgrade was never seen. I never seen it. The level of enthusiasm about everybody in the industry about this film was incredible, really. So actually that's now the part of your story, of your film. It's this kind of this shocking event of, you know, the social network, everything was like gone crazy. You know, I was playing football that evening, and then I opened this, and everybody was talking about this film. I saw it the next day. It was really impressive reception. So I'm just mentioning this to have contrapunct what you obviously are not happy that nobody believed in the film. So I'm just giving this contrapunct to understand the arc of between non-belief in this film and then success on the local level, and then later Rotterdam and etc. But we will talk about distribution later in the discussion.
Just one sentence that says it all. You know, nobody wants to be part of something that's not successful, and when it becomes successful, everybody wants to be part of it.
I think
that's important for the young people who want to make movies. You know, be passionate about what you do. Don't ask for support.
I think your film is perfect example for one of the subjects that we have in the panel, which is like audience, how to ride on the wave of audience enthusiasm, which was really incredible. You know, and we'll talk more in details maybe in discussion. You want to complete the presentation of the project, and I think by time we need to maybe make a break. So just do you want to close wrap your story in this presentation now?
No, let's leave it open for the next part.
Okay. Are we making break a bit, right? Or?
Yes, yes.
Or 15 minutes. Okay. Now is okay. See you in 10 to 15 minutes on streaming and in live. We can make a break now, and then we can go to the more dynamic and vivid discussion.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Do you like this area? It's a native city of Antonio Gaudi. Reus.
I didn't know that.
No. Did you? They say the host want to unmute you. Say no, right? To stay mute, right? Okay, thank you. Okay, are we starting now? Okay, now officially starting the second part of the panel. And we will continue discussion, but now let's
Dragan, you're silent, I believe.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Well,
he is. I can hear you,
Okay.
Marco, but not Dragan.
Yes, me too.
What about now?
Dragan, you are silent right now.
Okay, well, I need to be unmuted.
Dragan.
No, huh? Okay. Now? What about now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, well. Okay, now officially, let's start again. We're going to the second part of the conversation of the panel, and I hope this time will be more interactive. You can maybe now talk to each other more, and maybe to give even shorter answers so we can cover larger parts. Also, when we inside of one subject, please ask the questions inside of that subject. I think it's better than to wait and then questions in the end. Be free to answer. I know that people don't like to do it sometimes because maybe of they're too nice. So don't be too nice. Be just rude like our filmmakers. So okay, I announced at the beginning that we went through from Sahara to Kragujevac and to Napoli. What's important about this, I think, is just to explain the context again why these projects on this panel, because right now. I mean, usually, very often you need to work in the uncertain circumstances to make the film, right? you cannot be sure that you will make it. You're not sure, can you close the production, or can you make it, can you film it, can you understand the characters, like some of you made the films in the languages they don't speak, right? So all this is existing in the cinema very often. Right now it's even more because of whenever you have some world crisis. Now it's pandemic, some other time will be like world economical crisis or something. And of course that even more you will need to work maybe in the uncertain circumstances. What I think is important with all three projects, and really is not because you here, I really think about all three projects, is that you took this work on these projects and made adventures of it. And I think that's important, because one of the most strongest weapons you can have in dealing with projects that are made in uncertain circumstances is enthusiasm. Enthusiasm of the authors, but also of the people you work with. For example, about Kragovec, about My Morning Laughter, when you make fiction films, it's very often in Balkans that authors make it in their own cities because these stories inspire them. And you can maybe start with this, Miloš and Marko, of course, how much you had a local enthusiasm and the joy for people to participate in the film that can help this kind of production that was really low budget.
Well, first of all, we tried to make a small crew, mostly made out of friends and close colleagues that were truly believing in this. They were not doing this for money or anything. At the end, all of them were paid, not as on a big film, but were paid something, but that was not their main motive. So first thing for me is that you have that kind of crew. If you have someone who's not thinking like that, everything will fall apart. And why I think that shooting locally at the hometowns, at small towns and provinces is in a way easier than shooting, for example, in Belgrade, which is capital of Serbia, is that there are a lot of people who want to help, who want to help some guy from the neighborhood to make his movie, and you don't have to pay for everything. People simply want to be kind to each other more than in a big town where everyone is running for money. So
yeah, nobody's working for free in the big cities, where you have industry. Nobody, you call people, can you do it for free? I'm busy, I'm in a hurry. But
yeah, usually that's the case. But also, when, as Marcos told about very famous actors who worked in his film, when they smell that in that script there's something for them, they're ready to work for free or for very small amount of money, because I think they have so much movies and roles that they're not satisfied with, that they're ready to give their time to make something they believe in. And this was that kind of story.
Also, I mean, only one thing I would like to add. I mean, on the set, there was a few of my friends, and also there was one guy, a friend of my father, Proka. He's older man, and he was there for everything, really. I mean, he was like the old school guy, and I think that it's so important, because when you have and Proka would also tell me if the take was good, I don't mean it in a way because when there is a constant, because my film is all about acting, the presence of actors in the shot. So you can have 5 shots, they're worthless, and one that we think it's okay. I mean, it's worth making. So when you have this guy also there, and when you have this, then you can really feel the take. I mean, if the actors are present there, and it's so difficult to talk about the presence in the screen. It's a little bit mumbo jumbo, but I really do believe in that. And so much of fiction films is not about that. I mean, or the present. I mean, the actors present really there creating in the moment. So I believe that when you have people who are interested in the film, don't have anything to do maybe beside your film, and are there, and you want them to have fun. I mean, to participate, to engage in your shooting. So I couldn't imagine if more people were there, it would be terrible for this particular film.
Yeah, when you mentioned the working with the actors, I heard about you have some really unusual methods of making dialogues for the film in several steps, but I want to talk about it later. Now I want to also ask other guys about this local help. So let's say how much enthusiasm of, again, crew, of course, but also people who are not connected with, but who are just happy to be around the film can help the production. I know that from in former Yugoslavia, at least in several films, people just get boats, you know, in Dubrovnik or in Kladovo. They get boats for free because people are, oh, you're making film in our city, our small city, really? You can get a boat for free. You had some boats. You can tell us also, Siniša, about it in your film. But these are like big boats, really big boats people get for free. Or I know in Tilvaroš film in Bor, they got like these big machines for coal mining something for free, you know, because people, you know, just press the button. We want for a film. They're exciting. So I think people, if you have chance, or you have some city where everybody knows you, maybe you should try to do it locally for your first film. But what if you're doing it like Siniša in other country, like in Italy, Napoli, and then you had several scenes with the boats, which are maybe private boats. But tell us something about how much local community helped you also in making some of the scenes that are not so easy to film.
Basically, with my films, everything works with enthusiasm. It starts with me and ends with the characters. I've stopped dreaming that I will be able to live from the film, so I am going every day to work to get money for food for family. And usually I film projects, I don't know, they last usually for 5 years. And it's something that I invest money that I save from my regular work on Slovenian television, to save money not for the holidays, but save money for the tickets to be able to fly to Naples. Enthusiasm with the locals in this film wasn't so much, I wouldn't categorize it as enthusiasm, because Cristina Pinto has really special renommee there in Pozzoli. So Cristina has, if you watch the film sometimes, has a husband, but they're not married, has a partner for 25 years, and she was in prison for 24 years. Raffaele. They're both from criminal milieu. And Cristina was known and was probably so strong because of, she never had problem to shoot you in the leg. She thought, and she still thinks, that when you are
shoot with a gun?
Yeah.
Okay.
She thinks that the rules in mafia are really clearly written. So if this street is my street and that street is your street, you don't sell hashish on my street. If you sell hashish on my street, Cristina wouldn't ask you not to sell, but she would just shoot you in the leg. This is why, and that's why when I came to the area, to this small town, it was interesting because Cristina was covering my back.
Yeah.
Not literally, but she was walking with me, she was there with me. So I usually didn't even need to pay for the lunch or for the coffee in the bars.
Even you?
Yes,
because
it was
there's
like
a scene in the film in which local, they're selling their fish. Nobody wants money from her. No, please take it for free. You know, she obviously. So even you didn't pay anything, right?
I paid sometimes, of course, not all the time, but usually when you sit with them for the lunch or for the coffee, Raffaele drinks double chivas 7 times a day. That would probably cost 12 euros, 15 euros each, and he never pays. Yeah. And you see that there is some other economy going on there, which is not visible for me. But it was, for me, it was really positive to be, it was easier, much easier to have Cristina for the character. That's why I never had problem with anybody.
Yeah.
And I would really easy.
You're supported by local community because of fear, not because of enthusiasm, like in the case, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah, my morning.
That was the case.
What about you, Eloy? You had I know you had some incredible scenes that I want to ask you about. 2 scenes. How did you make it? It's really complicated. But tell me about local support of people. I mean, I guess they didn't see too much people putting camera in their face for months.
Yeah, in that case, it was an evolution, which in which the film school had a very important role. Because the first time I was there, 2014, not only the young people, but also the community were not used to cameras, as you said. There's a film festival that a Spanish NGO organizes every year, which was like the first approach they had to cinema, and which was very important to make them be interested in cinema, not only as a viewers, but as a creators. But let's say that the film school made a big impact in this very small community. So many young people were involved somehow in one way or another. So that was the core of they being more and more used to the cameras. And then they're not very used to a foreigner staying there for a long time. Maybe some doctors come for 2 weeks, maybe some volunteers come for 10 days, 1 week, whatever, but they are not used to a person staying for 9 months as I did. And since, again, it's a very small community, little by little, by spending time, I would always bring my camera, even in the situations where I wouldn't use it. So little by little, they got used to it. But they had a very important role. They were very, very, very active in the conception of the film. They would propose situations to film. And in a certain moment, that's why it's difficult even to say that you are the director of a film when in this case they are just proposing all the time, that was very, very beautiful. And they know that their conflict is invisible, so for them it was very, very important, of course, to make this film possible, because they wanted people outside Spain to know about this forgotten conflict in the middle of the Sahara Desert.
Yeah, well, you mentioned several times today that these kids, many of them never seen any film before. I know, do you know the info? It's that Paul Schrader didn't see any film in his life until he was 18, because he was from the Calvinist family. So when he saw first film when he was 18 years old, a few years later he wrote The Taxi Driver. So it was really, I think your students maybe can make some careers also. They have good potential. In preparation of not watching movies in the early days. But I want to ask you now, start with you, Eloy, about the concretization of the project, of the production, which I think is really important, because, always in this kind of conversation, we mention, when did you hear first time for the character, and when did you start shooting, what happened, but what in between? What are the steps? Okay, you said it, you went there, you had this film school, and you saw potential for the film, okay? And then when did you realize that you want to make really film, when the things became like, let's say, serious? Because you said that you had actually pretty much mainstream, Norway, Sweden, Germany, pretty much it's a mainstream on the paper, but you told me that you started project and you got them later, right? You would make this film even without their support, right? Tell us something about it, please.
Yes, the first time I was there as a teacher, I was not there to make a film, and I didn't film anything. But the first weekend, we had this agreement, all of us, the 12 students and me, to shoot 5 minutes of anything that we would have to show on Monday in the school. So I did my part. Everybody did their promise, and they shot 5 minutes of anything. So my part was to film 5 minutes of cars. I was fascinated about cars, especially the Land Rovers, Mercedes, and so on. So I showed this in the class, and they went really crazy about it. They were very enthusiastic, and they started to tell me so many stories about the cars, the use of Land Rover in the war, in the Exodus, nowadays as a kind of prestige, flirting with girls, which car is better to pick up a girl in the camps, and so on. So suddenly I realized that talking about cars was talking about their culture, their identity, their history. So I came back from the camps, 2 months there. I was too focused on making their films, so I didn't reflect on this so much. But when I came back from the camps and I saw this footage about cars, and I realized what they said about this, I thought, maybe this is a nice way to approach their story. And I knew that I would come back again and again and again, because you really they make you feel so welcome and part of their daily life. So I would come back as a teacher, and little by little I was pulling this thread about cars. So, but yes, as you said, I was doing it first of all by myself. Then this Swedish company entered, and what they did basically was to provide the equipment.
Sorry, let me ask you. You said then they came, but what was the difference in the projects, in the character of the project, like production-wise, but also aesthetic-wise? Did you something changed in the meantime when things productionally made more serious? I'm asking this because people who maybe want to make their own film, if they don't find the production like you, what then? They should, do something that is maybe not like so ambitious. Let's say I'm talking about aesthetics now, not only about success on the festivals. So,
yeah, I mean, I was very confident about this project because I knew I could make it no matter what. I could make it because basically it was me and these guys, and they would help me, and I did the camera, the sound. So in that sense, I felt very confident. But of course, the film is much, much better than what I would do if I didn't have, for example, Momento Film, which provide me, in one hand, the camera. It's a totally different story, honestly. I mean, in one hand, I used to make very fragile, modest, humble films with my tiny camera and even with my phone at some point. And obviously, there's Siniša was talking about how frustrating it can be not to have the right equipment. So in that sense, it was a huge step. You see those images that you saw now with the Sony F5. Obviously, the impact would be different, with another camera and even other lenses, not only the camera. So yes, it is definitely important. And then, of course, the main thing is more philosophical again, or existential. You have somebody to talk about the film. So that was even more important than the camera, because the camera, yeah, I can do it. I can definitely create images. But in that sense, I was talking with somebody else about what I was doing. And it was a producer who became a friend. So to share, this is a long process, as Siniša said. I'm sorry if I'm not saying right the name. It's a very long process. It's 5 years, 4 years, as he said. So it's a very lonely process, and maybe Marco experienced this at some point before Miloš came on board. A long process. You wake up in the morning and you're sorry.
Comes all the in the film. Not 3 years. You, Siniša, Marco. Marco.
3 or 4 years.
3 or 4. Well, that's some kind of standard. 5 for the perfect fiction. Are you going with the development? I think it's important also for filmmakers or for people who take their fiction, because one thing that is really challenging is that you colleagues that don't do anything, that have ideas project after 1 year that you're in project, still didn't finish it. You get it, but next year they have again, and each year after a few years you get feel guilty about it. You shouldn't. You actually should be patient because you know what you're doing. You're in the projects. You're sacrificing your life for that. So I believe that my opinion and message is just ignore these comments. They're not evil. They're just made from the people who didn't step bravely to these adventures to make films, to spend several years on films. So sorry, Eloy, I interrupted you. I just needed to jump in this because also I'm talking the same stories in kafanas. So I wanted to share in this kafana. Yeah. You know what's kafana?
No.
Well, a restaurant, but with much more bohemia.
Uh-huh.
In Bosnia, they say sevdah, but depends. In Serbia, you need to break some glass to show the love to people. But we'll explain that off the record. So sorry, continue now.
No, but I totally agree. A friend of mine who makes documentaries, specifically, he had this T-shirt. It was written, "Yes, I'm still making my fucking document. I'm still working my fucking documentary because after, as you said, 4 or 5 years. So what are you doing now? I'm working this film. I don't know. Still working on that." So he made this T-shirt like, "Yes, I'm still working my fucking documentary." I think people who make PhD is kind of similar as well.
Yeah. Okay. And so I want to ask the same question, Siniša, now. So, what's that? Okay. So I want to ask you the same stuff about your project. So your project is actually interesting. Maybe the best project for this question is that you heard for Christina, right, from your friend. She had connection. You explained that, and then you said that you meet her first time on the first day of shooting, or a few days before, right?
2 days before.
2 days.
2 days before the first.
So you heard about her. and then you start shooting when you meet your character, or like 1-2 days before, right? What happened in between? What were the steps of making this project actually serious production? So production-wise, but also about decisions of the creative decisions.
I had I really wasn't full of self-esteem with starting with this film, because I think that a local guy from Ljubljana can't do a great film about Gamora, because I think in Naples there are a lot of filmmakers that could interpret their own streets and their own life much better than me. And this my colleague that was working with me. She's a journalist, and I was working as a journalist for 15 years. And she was she was a little bit, I think, angry at me at the end that we didn't include this in the film, but I really wasn't occupied and concentrated on phenomenon of Camorra as mafia in the local Naples area, because I don't know a lot about it. When I heard about it, of course, I went to read Saviano books. I went to read about Cutolo, which is the last real mafia guy, just to know the history. And I still, while learning about it, I still think that I still didn't feel confident about it. And where I felt confident about it, it was emotional-wise, because I think this is like a general thing that we can all feel and understand.
How long was that time gap from the idea to
But I think it was because it was like 4 to 6 months, I would say, because she didn't, it's not like this that you get on April that they say that you will go in November, out on 16th of November at 9 o'clock. It's really like, she would 14 days before the coming out, she would know the exact date. So we were just waiting where she comes out, we'll go to Naples. I met her in this bar. We were sitting there, smoked some joints, so we kind of became friends. Fastly, trying to, I presented her my way of filming. And because Christina is so open and she's really, how to say, Christina was film-wise clever. She would, for example, in Slovenia, when I filmed, somebody would come, if I would make a camera there, and there would be my colleague, he would come inside in front of the camera and ask me, what are you filming? And he would destroy my shot. And this in Slovenia is happening all the time. You're filming and somebody said, what are you filming? Come on, you've just ruined my clip, you know? And in Naples, I didn't have this at all. From nobody. Okay. And then I was thinking a lot, why? And I think it's again, there were fear because of Christina. Okay. And they didn't want to interrupt her scene. This is I don't know. But I still think that they are from the south and they're much more open and they're not like Slovenians feeling picky about camera so much as they don't care. Their life is much more easier than for people in Ljubljana. But I just want to go back to financing. For me, I was lucky. I never had big financing problem for those of my 2 films. No, yeah, let's say. Because I never start filming, I never connect financing and filming. I am afraid, and I'm still afraid for the film that I'm doing now, I'm really afraid to find the right time to ask for financing. Because in documentary, where I try to film the life by itself, which is unpredictable a lot. And for example, I would film you becoming a world champion in boxing. And for example, and then you would, and I would get 50,000 euros. And 2 weeks before championship, you would say, I cannot use material anymore.
Well,
and I would get money and spend money, and I don't want, and I just am really afraid of the idea that I have to give back 30,000 euros of those 50 I got. So I'm usually, and I'm really paranoid about backups. I'm having 4 backups in 4 different addresses because of the money, of course because of the film also, but I'm afraid something would happen if I get money, because I'm producer of my films also. I'm really afraid of those banal things to happen, because I have friends that the director lost the material of the producer.
I need to share something with you. I agree with that. People should be careful about it, depending on in which country they're making films. For example, I was making a documentary in Germany, and we had one scene, it's not in the movie, in that film. It was World Cup in South Africa, okay? And it was the Serbia against Germany football. And we didn't shoot the screen because we know that FIFA will never allow you to use material. But it was only the sound of Vuvuzela. And they asked like 10,000 euros. FIFA want us to use only the sound in the background of Vuvuzela, you know. So even that scene was not important, but what if it was important? So, so you should really be careful with this stuff. Like boxing also, the hardest thing in the world to get archive regulated is boxing. I don't know, do you know that? No. It's like that's like almost impossible. So, I mean, just in documentary, it's really crazy that you need to be. I think it's really killing the flow of the filmmaking sometimes, but you need to be careful about this stuff.
So I usually am patient and I'm waiting to have at least a material for a bad film. So to have kind of dramaturgy, you know, not to have just to introduce the character, but to have some, I'm lying to myself sometimes if the bad things happen, I just can show this, you know, because I'm thinking all the time, what if it all goes down now? Then I ask for money, but I start spending money until I'm sure I have a film that I want to make.
You don't start spending money?
No.
Okay.
Because the production is made by myself. I'm like Eloy everything.
So you're self-sufficient in a way, or?
Yeah, I need editor. Without editor, I cannot survive. I have editing room. I made it in my house, which is beautiful. It's 2 meters long and 1 meter wide. Room, and it's great. And it's hot in the summer and in the winter. And for me, this is a passion of doing this, staying at night at home, spending in my editing room, and also all the time searching if I have a film. And when I make for, how is this said?
What?
To make copies of material, form backups. And when I see that we have the last scene shooted, then I start giving money for myself, for editor, or for the characters, or for the... Because I usually pay all my production before. And as I was afraid at the beginning, because you shouldn't spend money for the things that happened before the contract you did. Yeah. But with the creative business, I can think it's not hard to do it.
Yeah, but again, I will go back to my question that was for me interesting. So you got the idea about Christina to make a film through your friend, right? Okay. Then you start shooting.
Yeah.
In the meantime, did you know from the moment one that you had idea what kind of film you want to make? That was actually maybe a more precise question. You knew because obviously you have your method. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, I started to answer you, but I jumped out. Yeah. Since I come from journalism and I really don't want to be journalist anymore, and I really have questions about journalism in these days. Okay. I don't want to make movies anymore about with the informations. Yeah. I really don't want to give informations in film anymore. I don't want to say it happened there at that time, this 5W questions, and that I want to do emotions. That's emotions in everyday life. And since I got this decision, I was starting thinking, where can I get her emotions? And it was like her private life. Okay. And it was the idea at the beginning that all the mafia films at the end ends with the capitulation of the main character. And we were waiting for her capitulation. And I was questioning myself, will this capitulation will she start doing illegal things again? I don't know, something in between she was doing something, I was filming some guys, I didn't understand what they're talking about, but it was like some drug deals, I don't know. But she didn't do it at the end. She didn't make the trafficking. And I was thinking, I was waiting to see what will happen with the daughter, if they will become friends or not, and of course with her partner. And when I got the falling apart of the partnership in such a manner that we got filmed.
Don't spoil the film.
Yeah, I won't, but it was the emotion, it was all the time decision of being driven by emotions and not about the information of mafia and what are her specialities in mafia history. Because the biggest question I was putting to myself is how to make observational documentary and put in the informations from the history. Yeah. That's for me the biggest question still. Which you have archival material, you can do it with off text or whatever. And I don't want to have
fantastic opening with the archive of the film. I'm biggest fan of archive materials. I would like to see it more even in your film. But
yeah. So this was my questions: how to do emotions and still talk about something that concrete emotions in present time and still try to speak about her past.
Yeah, you mentioned that you didn't want to make film about Gamora Mafia, but about her intimate life, and I think I want to ask you about how did you make some intimate scenes there that nobody actually interrupt you in filming while really happening. But before you answer, I want to start this subject about intimacy with Marko's project because it's crucial for his film. And I didn't ask you, Miloš and Marko, about this step between idea and, because you explained it already, right? Short film, then Marko next step, then you jump on the project. Maybe it's important to say, Miloš, that you, before you jump on the project, you already had opinion about Marko's short films, right? Previous ones.
Yeah, that was really important for me because I'm really big fan of he has 2 short movies before, and one of them is for me really something specific that I haven't seen anywhere before. So that was before we even met, and I remembered that short movie, which is, tell it again, Marko, in English, please. Bee stung in the
Big Little Bees.
In the Big Little Bees. It's really difficult for me to say it in English.
Say it in Serbian.
Ujed pčele u velikim pčelicama.
Okay.
Ujed pčele u velikim pčelicama.
Yeah, it's
really difficult in Serbian also.
Yeah, but he had something really specific, considering the other short movies from Serbia, and we also have really big friend who is Filip Đurić, the main character from the film. He's also main character from my first film, so he in a way connected us. And
sorry. What's important to say? You are producer of this film, but your basic occupation is filmmaker, director. You also have feature fiction, 2 films already, making documentary now. So you you are a director who is producing your own films, right? And then you jump with Marko.
Yeah, sometimes I'm producing my own films and sometimes I have producers from a side, but I really loved the idea and his work before, so I decided that it would be great to be part of it. It was just pure instinct, and I don't know, something good happened when we met. We are now, we could say, really good friends, but then, we just felt that we want to make similar things, that we have the same ideas about the world. That was really important for me, aside from film and the material. So yeah, that's the point when I jumped in.
Yeah, let's jump to the intimacy. So, Marko, your film, Moj jutarnji smeh, it's with fantastic acting by Filip Đurić. I think Filip Đurić is discovery through your film and through some series now that he's playing. He's incredible actor, really. And this level of intimacy, it's about a guy who is still virgin, right? In the small village. And that's a shame. Just to explain to somebody who didn't see the film, you can see it tomorrow, by the way, again, on this festival. Please tell us how much also this intimacy that is incredible in the film. I want to ask you about dialogues that I mentioned before, but before we jump to dialogues, how do you do the dialogues, tell us something about intimacy. How much of this were from your personal experience or, whatever, and how much of your personal intimacy you put into this film, and how did you create it in intimate scenes with the actors? What was the workflow or making intimacy in the film with 2 actors that are from the same city like you, right? Did you know them before? Your friends or no?
I have some internet connection problems, I believe.
Okay.
So I think I was thinking a lot about it in terms of this film is really not. I mean, it's not autobiographical, but in terms of concrete scenes that happened to me, some of them are inspired by things from my life, and some of them are from my friends' lives or from around here, from the stories I hear in Kragujevac. Some of them are written by me. I mean, they're not the things not happened in real life, but I believe that the feeling about this nervousness is from very personal thing. That's how I was feeling at the time, and Filip also, the main actor, and Ivana and.
Sorry, but did you know that Filip personally also has this problem of nervousness like you, or you just know you say okay, he's a fantastic actor, he can do it.
Yeah, fuck. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have. I would really like to say a few things about making films to be clever, but it's difficult. I mean, you have some taste, and you want to make a good scene. When you make fiction films, often it's not a good scene for me.
It's not a good scene.
I mean, you don't do a good scene. I mean, it's not good. So whatever you can use to make a good scene, for me, it's okay. In terms of, you take some notes from real life, you imagine something, but I think if you're honest enough, then you can see if scene is funny. I mean, everything I make films to be like interesting to people. And
what's great in your scenes actually is not just a really great dialogue, but the tempo and the rhythm of the dialogue, which of course it's based on the actors. You need good actors to do that. That's really, crucial stuff. However, tell us about, because I heard that Miloš explained me something about it, but you can do it maybe in more details even. What is your method of making dialogues for the film? Because you just don't write the script and then that's it. Explain us, please, the full process of the final dialogues in the film.
Yeah, well, I need to make films that are films, first of all. I mean, that's not, I'm not making a film that is, maybe it's based on reality, but I see it as a fairy tale, really. Also, my film that is, I see it as some kind of construct, some kind of artificial thing, not, and the rhythm is the most important thing for dialogue, I believe. So my way of writing is that I usually, when somebody says something that catches my ear, I don't know, in real life, some kind of phrase that is not that common, or that you see that person hides something beneath the phrase that he's speaking. There's some kind of emotion beneath. So I took that, I write it down, and so I construct these scripts around the words, not around the storyline. I try to find the right mood for the scene, and of course then.
So you want to you want to say that sometimes you forming the scene based on the atmosphere through words and not through the factual role of this scene into the full storyline. Right?
Yes,
and then maybe you find
that's the main thing. Yeah, I write something, some kind of dialogue between two persons, and then I change them. If in real life it's man, I put it in a woman or child, and I play around with these words, and then I got the feeling for the scene, and it's really easy, because there are simple scenes. I mean, relationships between father, parent. I mean,
okay, but that's the first time when you write the dialogue. What's the next step? You then
you try to organize it, I
mean, if I understand well, you write the screenplay from this is your inspiration, and then the next step is that you calling your actors, right?
Yes, and I mean, I call Philip all the time. I mean, we are friends, and Ivan also, and so I send them the part of the scene, and then they tell me, oh, it's interesting or it's not interesting. I mean, often it's not that interesting.
So your actors actually participate in writing of dialogues all the time with you, right?
They read. They don't write. They don't write.
No, of course, but through talks with you.
Yes.
So they're actually engaged in the project.
Documentary.
Yeah, because mostly in the films, yes, there is people are starting, they're trying the scenes and everything, but in your process, actually, you engage actors much earlier. Through several phases of screenplay on dialogues. Actually.
Yes, on dialogue. And then we feel if the character that is becoming. I mean, because I'm sending them scenes and I don't have a character in the beginning, and then Philip will say me, oh, it's not that interesting to play this character, and then you try to find some other words. I mean, other emotions, some kind of unpredictability about the character, like you have in this film Dan, who who is a shy guy, but he breaks out the glass door in the beginning of the film. You have this anger around this guy. And it's so interesting when you have this opposite kind of thing. And the more moods, the more colors that you got from the characters, that's the most fun part for us, you know. If you cannot believe the actor would sing, the character would sing, then it would be great if he can sing, or, you know, you have some, like you think you know shy guys, but you don't really.
Yeah.
I mean, they can do all the things the normal guys would do, or, you know. So that was, and you know, I really love the films of Paul Thomas Anderson, and it's totally opposite films from mine. So I would be, when I make these small films, you know, I try to stay away from reality as much as I can, because it's depressing to me, you know. If I see my film as a Kragujevac film, it would be so depressing to me, because we try to make shots, we try to make directing, and we try to play. I mean, for me, it's depressing when it becomes too real in terms of like, or,
but
you know.
But for your process, for you kind of working on the fiction, and because you so much worshipping the words on a dialogue,
yes.
What does it mean? That you need actors that are also the worshippers of the words, or can you work with the actors that are not? You know, there are actors that are maybe good, but they are just not. They don't get it. You know.
Yes.
I was editing some actors. Really, some fantastic actresses, for example. They play differently in every take. Totally different dialogue, even. You know, they just they just based on their talents, which is great. But you need the worshippers around you, right?
Yeah, you need to persuade. I mean, if you have like the other guys here, I mean, if you have passion for something, I believe that that people sense it, and that they like, let's see what's there. I mean, in those words. I mean, they're more curious, these famous actors, than they're attached right from the beginning. You know, they're curious. What's really this guy is so, you know, happy for this scene, but I don't see why. And in the beginning, it's a little bit like, let's see what's there, and then I try to explain them, you know, to what's special to me around this kind of, around the scene. So, but the most difficult part for me, and the part that my films are still not as good as I would like, is the construction thing in the end, and that's difficult. You know, when you have these moods around, and it's difficult to organize it, and that's the part where I struggle the most, and it's not as good as it would need to be, I believe.
No, it's a really interesting video film, because Jasna Đuričić, who one of the best actresses in the region, she's a mother in the film, and she's actually she's playing mother in dozens of films. She's always mother of some main character, but this is totally different role. So actually, I don't know how you did it, but all of a sudden it's like new actors for me. Although
that's a great thing, because in Miloš's film, and his next film that he's not out yet, Jasna is the best one, the best version of her acting for me, and because I think it's, I mean, in real life, you know, it's so difficult to be not nervous, for me at least, and for the actors. And the great directors, I believe, and I'm not the one yet, are able to really make their actors free. And I really, with Jasna, it was really difficult for me, because we're the same kind of energies, you know, like nervous a little bit on shooting day. So it was difficult relationship, but it was always like friendly, and always we were trying to get rid of this nervousness. And I think in Miloš's film, it's really beautiful how open her acting feels.
Yeah, I want to ask you, because I want now to ask, because this is fiction. We talk about intimacy in fiction.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting to hear in documentaries, because that's different kind of animal that you deal with. But I want to ask you one more question about intimacy in your film, because one big piece of your film is well, I'm not disclosing the film, but let's say the biggest intimacy, physical intimacy, is close to the end of the film. So you have really long shots, one shot only. You have intimate scene, like making love, or trying to at least. And then it's really long, and it's so many details. And you say that you're nervous, that main actor is nervous. I don't know, but Ivana, the main female actress, but with so many nervousness and shyness, and you have two naked actors in the long shots, really long, like several minutes, 7-8 minutes shots.
Yes.
So tell me about shooting this with so many takes.
Yes. Well, that scene was planned a long time ago. I mean, I had some inspiration from, of course, from real life, but much of it, the words are not from my life or from. I mean, Philip in one improvisation did something with his hand. He put this intimate scene starts when he puts his hand on her face while sleeping. So it's so much about these little gestures, words, and if you put them right in right spots, in right rhythm, I believe in theater, especially the people can feel it. And
but it's not about the words only. Here you have physical action of naked actors who are shy, like you said, and it's really long. It's not one kiss. It's really like big. It's like quarter of the film.
Yes. It's 12 minutes long. And I think it was good rhythm to that specific shot. It was a 5th take, I believe. So we had like 7 takes, not that many as in the other shot that were always around 20 or 30 takes. But this shot was like 5th take, and it was good enough to stop this agony of shooting this love scene. I mean. That is so uncomfortable. I mean, to shoot, of course, because they're friends, and it's so. But also, it was about creation, I believe. When he puts his hand there, when she turns around. I mean, you try to make as good scene as you can, as interesting scene as you can. To get the right rhythm. So it was all planned when they, and that shot. Particularly was okay, and the actors are really great. Even it's not only my opinion.
Okay, let's jump from shy people to totally non-shy people in Napoli.
Yes.
Siniša, you were with totally opposite people that are not shy, right? And then you were there, and now we're not talking about one scene. We're talking about several scenes of Christina having intimate scene with her daughter. Some of the really. Exchanging of inside of family feelings, right? And then several scenes with Rafaela, her partner, and then with the mother. So all this intimacy in the family, and single time, I didn't notice at least, maybe it's about good editing, there is no single awareness of the character's presence of you there, right? So can you tell us something about this intimacy level? How did you deal with it? Is it just like you were lucky enough that they don't pay attention or something else?
No. I was asked this before, and while trying to find the answer for this, I'm answering on the way that that we people are different, and there are some people that are more egocentric, some are more introvert, some are eccentric, some are more social, some are less social. And I think that for this kind of observational, emotional, private scenes or private films, films with private topic, it is really about you as a person, you as a filmmaker. Are you a person who will take time and take energy to become a person that somebody will trust you? Would you, after the shooting, go and drink whole night with your character, or you will be tired and go to sleep to your hotel? I think it's really of your personality, who you are, and I see this. Because it's not just this project that I'm having, the project that I'm filming now, I was just waiting for my characters, 80 years old, where will they undress in front of me? And it was like 3rd day, it was really, I wanted.
It happened on the 3rd day.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask you, how deep into your shooting of Daughter of Gamora they start being intimate with?
No, but there was harder, because this was there. I had problems with, the biggest problems with Rafaela. You didn't see him. Rafaela is her partner. And these people there are really conservative. They don't know where, I think that more or less people from the streets of Pozzuoli don't know where Slovenia is. They're really not aware that Slovenia is their neighbor country. People from the south are much more conservative than me. And Rafaela couldn't accept my dreadlocks. He does, because he is used that in Naples, people with dreadlocks are, you know, migrants from Africa, which he sees selling the things on the street. So that was his, you know, that was only his idea that I'm like from Africa, you know, it was like him. And I needed 3 years for him to become his friend. And then we were friends, and then I had full access, even more than with that I had with Christina, for example. But first 3 years, he was calling me Mustafa. I don't know why, and I was Mustafa. And he really wasn't taking time to...
who called people Mustafa, so. But he's good with people from that area. It's crazy. Yeah.
And he didn't even, you know, try to even know me for the first 3 years. And then it went really nice at the end.
That's really important to mention, I think, because in documentaries, what's really, really, really crucial stuff in documentaries is that you have approach to the characters, right? And that's why I believe both projects, Hamada and Daughter of Gamora, are impressive in a way. How did you manage to make approach for such a long time in such a distant area that it's not your living area, right? I believe, and from different experience that I know, mine own, but also many other filmmakers, that when you have, you want to shoot someone, and they're super cool, they told you, yeah, you can make film about me. Everybody, mostly, 90% of characters think that shooting will last 3 weeks maybe, or 3 days, right? Nobody has awareness that it's going to be years for years. That's why it's maybe really important to be clear about it, or to manage that you somehow can stay in somebody's life for such a long time. Not in every film, but in most of the films. I think that's crucial stuff, and it's actually for you. You were sure that you will have this approach, right? Or you gamble on it.
Yes, and I was aware of the years that will pass, but Christina wasn't aware of the years that will pass. She was, I think, more thinking about 1 year, 7 times a year. Yeah. So she was really nervous at the end when we will finish, but she had a nervous part of her life at that time, splitting with Raffaele and everything. Yeah. She was really happy when I said that I won't come back with the camera anymore. It was really hard to talk with them.
No,
but now when she, they're not aware when they film, when they see the film, now they understand why we need it so many times. But while the process is going on, and somebody that is not familiar with the producing of the documentary film cannot be aware, and you cannot demand him to be aware. I try to talk a lot with the characters about this, to show them parts of other films, for example, to see how time passes, because passage of the time in documentaries is something that I really, really admire.
Yeah, and you did it, and you didn't answer. I want to ask you about the boats, right? And this, you had only, I think, 2 sequences or 3 maybe, with the music and the boats and the editing sequences, right? So, did you? Because your style is pretty clear. It's pretty minimalistic in a way. But you decided to put these sequences, which personally I like. But tell me something about finalizing the style of the film. It was just pop up in the editing, or?
Yeah, I think so. But with the boats that you want to know, it's we had I think that the biggest luck was this family of my friend, that was really helping us. They were, for example, waiting us at the airport, bringing us to hotel, and also giving us their boat. You have 3 scenes on the boat, and 1 scene, 2 scenes are from our boat, filming their boat. And these are small boats, fishing boats, and only once they allowed me, because it's in that area very, probably also for Cristina and Raffaele, you're not allowed to step on the fishing boat if you're not listed as a member of the crew. And they like Raffaele, and Raffaele is illegally catching fishes on the illegal way, with a little bit of explosive at La La La, and he didn't want me to be there with the camera. And once I was on their boat, we had a problem with Guarda de Finanza. They stopped us, and it was a problem that me and Anka were on the boat. And it ended up that they took all the fish and we got away. Police took all the fish, and then they went away.
Yeah, well, I want to ask also Eloy about intimacy in his film, but first let's just jump on this, what Siniša said, because you said that that was problem with shooting that, right? You shouldn't be on the boat. Can you tell us, because you have some great sequences, you made your film in the camps, deep in the desert, right? And then tell us everything from production, from the logistics, because you shoot in the several camps. Tell us, it looks like, oh, it's great photography, it's fantastic, right? But what efforts and things in logistics you need to do just to be able to go from camp to camp? And did you do anything illegal about it that you can share with us?
Let me think about what I'm going to say and what I'm not going to say. The main thing, it's a security. It's a very secured area. There's checkpoints everywhere. And when I say everywhere, I mean there's only one road to go there, and you have to pass several military controls in order to arrive here. It's very impressive for a European person, or at least for a Western European person, I don't know, but to see soldiers with guns, and you have to pass all these controls in order to arrive there. And once they're in the camps, it's 5 different camps. As a foreigner, you need permission in order to move freely, because some years ago there was a kidnapping of foreign volunteers. So they took 3 Spanish guys and 1 Italian guy to Mali. So they were kidnapped and taken to Mali. So now there's a lot of security issues there. So the main difficulty was that you're not supposed to move freely as a foreigner, and you're not supposed to be outside of your house after 7 in the evening. But as everybody knows, the real stuff happens after 7 in the evening, So a part of my job was to get involve people in helping me to get out after that time, for example. So you need to go very carefully, and you have to build trust with the police and so on. And as a foreigner, of course, even though everybody knows you, you are still a foreigner in this very small community. Of course, there's a power issue because you come from Spain. Spain used to be the colonizer, so you also know, you are totally aware of this. But the main difficulty I had was not even in the camps. It was in order to bring the equipment to the camps. Every time I would come to the Alger airport, I would have a lot of problems. My equipment got confiscated several times, and you are there
because it's not allowed to shoot anything, right, in the area.
You need a special.
Sorry, who is giving this? Who is banning this? Like Morocco or no? Algeria? Who is?
No. In this case, it's Algeria, and it's the Ministry of Information. It's if I go tomorrow to Slovenia or to Serbia, I bring my camera and that's all. Maybe if I'm shooting in the street, maybe the police will approach me, ask me, "What are you doing?" But I can bring my camera, and nobody will stop me. I understand.
Sorry, but don't be so sure about it, because you managed to go to Western Sahara to make a film, but you didn't manage to come here because of new rules, right?
I know much better Slovenia than Serbia, yes. I have never...
No, I'm talking that you managed to go to Sahara to make a film, but you didn't manage to come here in Slovenia right now these days, So don't be sure it's so easy to come to Slovenia to shoot, okay?
Yeah, you're right. No, but it was surprising, all the things I had to do just to bring my camera and my tripod from the airport to the camps. That's crazy, and it deserves a book itself. So that was the main difficulty. And once there, yes, after 7 o'clock, you shouldn't be out. So it took a long time to, be able to be outside. In terms of intimacy, as you said, even though the 2 clips that I showed are not the best in order to show these intimate scenes, that's the thing that is more valuable for me in the film, Again, as a foreigner, I was very surprised how open they were about letting me be with them in such intimate contexts and such intimate conversations. And part of it was also the humor. There's a lot of humor in the film. And I believe that in Marcos and Milo's film, there's a lot of humor, and the type of humor that I love, by the way, I would say this by seeing that short scene. And this is part of intimacy as well. They need to feel confident and comfortable with you. And I think that was a very important part of the film.
But that's really interesting because, like we said, it's really important to make a contact with characters to, get the trust. But you don't speak the same language like them, right? That's really important. They do speak a bit of Spanish, right? Or they understand it? What was the...
Yeah. They speak. These three characters speak Spanish. Not all the population speaks Spanish, but as a former colony, there's a lot of relationship between the Western Sahrawi people and Spanish people. So most of them learn Spanish at some point. So we would communicate in Spanish, but once the scene would start, obviously I didn't understand anything, and in many ways I didn't even ask what did you talk about. Many times I didn't ask because they would talk for 20 minutes. Sometimes a take was 20 minutes.
Did you have any idea, any hint about what they talk about? Did you have any idea, or you discovered later with translation?
I could understand the energy of the scene, of course, which was the most important thing. Beyond the content, the words and everything, the energy and the way they look at each other, the way they moved. So I knew them very well because they speak Spanish, so I knew their sense of humor, what they thought about the situation, about love, about life, about freedom, about whatever. So I didn't need to understand so much about the content. But at the same time, it's true that they use Spanish words. You're hearing Hassaniya, which is an old dialect of Arabic, and suddenly you will hear some Spanish words. It's very similar in Philippines. There's a language in Philippines in which suddenly they put some Spanish words. So with those Spanish words, I could, okay, they are talking about cars, they are talking about love, they're talking about politics, they are talking about this. But it took me 1.5 years after my first shooting to get the subtitles because it took us 1.5 years to get any money to pay translators. And it was amazing to receive the.
So you were surprised what kind of film you expected? Some maybe spy thriller, and then you got some documentary.
No, but since they were talking their own language, they were much better than the Spanish version that I knew. The humor was much better. The introspective parts were deeper. Obviously it's their own language. They were talking to each other, not only the same language but the same code as well, the same type of humor. So everything that all the magic I saw in them, once I understood everything they were saying, was like 10 times what I could expect. That was fucking magic. It was amazing.
But you also made the film in a conservative, let's say, environment, or at least secluded, right? It's pretty much isolated from our flow of cultures. And so, is there anything that was maybe? Did you know what you can shoot or what you cannot shoot? Is anything that you shoot maybe could not be accepted well from the characters, or especially female characters, maybe?
No, in that sense, it's very interesting, both the other two films, because they are about very sensitive issues, both the film of Siniša and Marko Miloš, because it's really sensitive issues. In my case, there's not really problematic things in that sense, but it was not a matter of limits, it was just a matter of quotidianity. So there were things that in the daily lives wouldn't happen in front of a man, not only in front of a foreigner, in front of a man, So if they're not in the film, it's also because they didn't really happen. So no, I didn't feel that I was stopping myself from creating situations or whatever. But of course, the main issue was me as a man. I couldn't touch, for example. With Zara, in the end, yes, we would touch each other, but you're not supposed to touch a woman, for example, which for a Spanish person, it's difficult not to touch in general, So that was the main rule that I knew and I wouldn't break, Beyond that, no, I didn't feel that there was nothing like, okay, we are consciously avoiding this. No, it didn't really happen. They would talk about love, about sex, about whatever, the way they do it normally.
Okay, let's include also audience now that maybe we said you can ask, but we didn't give them space, maybe me. But please, do you have any questions? And totally relax, please, to answer, to ask whatever you want from any of the subjects that we mentioned before. Yes?
Thank you. Is this happening? Yeah?
Yes.
All right. I have a question for Siniša. It was great what you said about giving your subjects all access and then, asking for all access and then giving them veto power. And I was just wondering, you mentioned that these relationships take a long time to build. At that point, do you have that sit down and you're like, listen, I'm always going to be here. I'm going to always be kind of in your face and I'm going to be filming everything and you'll look at it in a few years when I have a cut and you'll see. I was wondering if you do that on the first day or after you've built a relationship, and further on from that, I was wondering if you ever get people to actually sign anything and at which point. And if any other directors and producers would like to comment on that, I would love to hear your perspectives on kind of getting the subject, taking care of the subjects ethically and making sure they're comfortable. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I'm doing this for a second. Maybe I'm even starting talking about direct cinema and I'm trying to show them something, Postman, for example, on the internet. I'm talking about full access. And I'm really talking concretely and I'm really not being nice with it. So I'm really talking about spending time with you in the bed. I'm using this kind of words. I'm not talking just being with you on the toilet. I'm just being really rough, not trying to make things look nicer for them. And I'm also talking about the time passage, because I try to, because I think that, of course, you can do observational documentary in 10 hours, in 24 hours, never mind. But the way that I was doing, waiting for the change that I didn't know what kind of change will come and how the change will look, I also presented them on the this time level that it will last. The problem with the signature of the contracts with the main characters, I have a big problem with it because I don't know how to do it. I don't do it.
So you say contracts, you mean?
Yeah. For the first film, which I was filming movement on the street, I didn't have contract with anybody. With Christina, I didn't have contract for 4 years, and I was doing everything without contract. Because I say, if you don't trust me, and if you will not sign me contract after 4 years, it's not worth of we together make a film.
You said that to yourself or to her?
Myself, to myself.
And not to her?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
And with Christina, it became really bad when we started talking about the contract. And we were really cold atmosphere at that time because she started demanding money and revenues. But that's not a problem for me. It's a problem that she didn't want to talk with me about it. And she brought some accountant that I just saw once in these 5 years, and it became her best friend. And it was my fortune that I got this co-producer from Rome, which knew how to deal with these things. So he got a communication with her. I give contract to sign to Raffaele, to her husband, and there were no problems. And for example,
sorry, can you explain why there was no problems with Raffaele?
Because at that point, it was the point when everything, because of the fell apart.
You told me because he's so confident that you will not do anything bad with him, so he just signed you easily, right?
Yeah, but it wasn't that. I didn't think that. He was just confident on what his role in film was, so he wasn't proud.
But I thought that confidence is coming out
of his personality.
His past.
Maybe. For example, for the film that I'm doing now, filming, I really don't know how to deal with it. I have a deal with a character that we will die together. She will die in front of my camera. When to do the contract? Do I need a contract? Do I need a contract from her family? It's more important from her family, which will be alive when the film will be editing. Who will be talk about? These kind of things. And I really don't want to formalize big, important relationship in my life. Also, I have problems with getting married. I don't want these formal things things that I will lose the value. You know, if I give the price, I will lose the value. So I don't want in between some emotions, some papers and signatures to come. But it has to come sometimes, but I'm still trying to figure it out when it's right time. And I also am, I really, I'm like argumenting, I think that all the characters should get some money for the film. But after the film is filmed. First of all, not to change the, you know, if there's a big money, you can change the flow of the story, whatever. But I think that I always was talking with Christina that we will get the same amount of money for the project. Me and her will have the same money because it was important for her, the money.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask the same question like you asked to other authors, and I think it's really important to talk about ethics. Mostly in documentaries, in fiction is different kind of ethics. I will ask that also Marko and Miloš what they think about it. But with you, Eloy, what was ethical? You partially answered it already through my previous question. But what was maybe these ethical challenges for you? And technically, how did you manage to get all the allowances? What is the word? Like permissions, yes, not contracts, maybe. Permissions. Yeah. It's if somebody don't know, it's the permission that characters in the documentary are aware that you shoot them, right? It's not obligated through contracts, but it's awareness of them that you shoot them so you can use the material, right?
Yeah. In my case, my producers were more worried than me about all these topics, including, for example, they mentioned it several times, like, yeah, but you're a white guy making a film about these refugees in a dramatic situation and everything. And they were much more aware, and they would bring the issue much more than myself, because honestly, I was there. I was living there with them for a lot of months. We were doing a lot of stuff which have nothing to do with the film. So I never saw myself as a white guy there, even though, of course, it's obvious. But at the same time, I never saw myself as a white guy making a film about this guy. I was, my previous film was in Sweden. I was a Spanish guy in Sweden. Suddenly, I was a Spanish guy in the Western Sahara. And I didn't really reflect on this in the sense, how should I feel about being Spanish here? Of course, obviously, the role you have. But I was not theoretical about it. When it came about permissions and so on, it was not a problem. I explained to that. The difference in this case is that everybody got paid since the very first second, because basically first because we could do it, fortunately, and then because I understood that time was money for everybody in their case, and of course. The situation there makes it also more ethical, or I don't know, but it was very natural, both money and permissions, everything. I would say, I will spend, first of all, as I think Siniša said before, I knew they were not doing it for money, but at the same time, they were doing it very kindly, and I could, and I wanted to pay. So since the first moment, everybody got paid in the moment. And then when I explained why we needed the permissions, in a certain moment, the producers told me we need the permissions of all these people. So I explained each one by one, okay, we need this permission for this reason, And we made sure even to translate everything to Arabic so they could understand and so on. It was never a problem, to be honest.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. This what's ethics in documentary. I had some I found it interesting situation that one of the side characters in my film, he was a criminal, and just like 1 hour before the premiere, he told me that he's interested to see the reaction of his son when he see the film, because his son doesn't know that he was a criminal. And I sat in the dark, and I just realized that this kid is just in front of me, and I spent the film watching this kid and his reaction, because I felt the whole film like the worst exploitator, of family feelings, what I'm doing. But this kid was so happy after the film that his father was the criminal once, not just the housemaster, that he knows his story. So actually, it changed my perception that I didn't do anything bad. He was really happy that his father was a criminal once. So it's interesting in documentary that you have this. Maybe this is crucial that you don't spoil some relations about some character that you're not aware of actually when you're shooting. You try to represent your character like a good character, but this relationship, how somebody can see the situation, is actually challenging. With Siniša, with your film, was actually, did you have any problem with, because it doesn't look like with the daughter, but what about mother? We're talking mostly about Rafael and his relationship, but how is this film anyhow influence the Christina's relationship with the family, or except with Rafael? We know that, from the film.
In Christina's family, everybody except her brother is having a problem with the law. So mother was for 4 years in jail, brother was in home arrest while we were filming there. Her older brother died from overdose of heroin, and her father also died. Don't know, I think regularly died. It's not that only with, let's just state you, I didn't have everything didn't went well with Christina and me. It happened that some moment I arrived to Pozzulli, and it was she would come to the balcony and say hello, hello, and open me the door, or she would come down and we would drink coffee. And just one day, on one filming, she wouldn't come to say hello to me. Okay. And I just came, what? And she didn't talk to me for 5 days. Like, it's hot and we people with depression and we really have problem with hot weather and we cannot go out. And I thought that, and I just fastly found out that, for example, when she would even not talk to me over the balcony, she would talk to me over the domophone, how you say, the speaker on the door. Interphone. And she was like coughing, and I saw this is not a natural coughing. Come on, we cannot have this kind of relationship. We are making film. You cannot lie to me. And plus, you have to respect me, and as I respect you. So it has to be mutual. And I used some wrong words that she's not sincere. Okay. She didn't like that to be not sincere, and at that moment, I was really
spent 24 years in prison.
Yeah, and there was I was 6 days staying there, and I filmed 7 minutes only in 6 days. And it was like last day, come on, let's go for a dinner. And I was really pissed of everything. Come on, I should be at home. Why am I here in a room without the air condition? Stay here. I can, there's not even the place to swim there. You can or drink beer in bar or be in hot room. It was really bad to be there. Well, not being prepared for anything or waiting that she would maybe feel like filming. And you can never stand up on the table out of the dinner before she or Rafaela gets up.
Oh, really?
You cannot do it. You cannot feel like. Yeah. So, and I did it. Oh. And it was, I know your surname, I know where you live, and it was, everything went better afterwards, and I think that I got gained more respect from her because of this, but I was really waiting that morning to go fast to airport and go home.
Well, I really wasn't. Yeah, you had a case, actually, it was two ways street in your case about this ethical approach, not just you need to care about ethical aspects from the character side, but actually you had obviously different, other direction also, two sides with her, not treating you well maybe ethically. But that's in documentaries, that's really challenging in documentaries. I mean, it's a wide aspect and we can talk only about this, what you can do, but in fiction is different. In fiction you don't have this problem, right? You don't, it's you, especially if you full out or like writing and directing the film. But what for you, Miloš, for you, but also Marko, for yourself, what's ethical challenges in fiction? Is it connected with some social aspect or exclusively for your approach to art?
Well, for me, it's really important, and I really liked what Siniša said about it, how he approaches his characters. When you're making low-budget movies, you have to ask people for 1,000 things, for their time, for working longer period, for less money or anything. And my principle is to be also very honest and clear in the start. So, for example, if I ask you to edit the film, if we have this amount of money, I'll tell you we have this amount of money. Or if we don't have anything to give you, we'll ask you to work for free. But it's very important to be clear in the start. I think the worst thing is to make some expectations that we'll all get rich from this film and you'll win an Oscar or whatever. And that's basically bullshit. Then people think that you're lying them all the time. So you say how things are, and you see that people either don't want to do it or they don't have problem with it at all. And if you're fair with them, they will be fair with you till the end, I think. So that was our basic principle, and it was the same with all the people, from the driver or post-production services, everything.
Okay,
and
but now you're talking totally as a producer, right? About
yeah.
But what about?
As a director, for me, it's difficult when you work with professional actors and non-professional actors. But gaining the trust is the most important.
Marco, what about ethics toward your own art? Because for everything you said, obviously, you care about being untouched by other people's influence of your art, right? Is that ethics for you, to stay your own, or to overcome some challenges, creative challenges you have? And you need to unmute, I think, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's right. I mean, you try to find the right thing for you to do. Yeah, that's the most difficult thing. I mean, then when you're not copying anyone, or
when you're not when you're not
copying or not stealing from. And I mean, it's so difficult also in life. I mean, that's the same thing as making films. I believe it's difficult to have your own opinion on something. For me, it's the most difficult thing. I mean, to know what I think about something. So
you mean to articulate it, or
to articulate it, yeah. Most of the time, I read some interviews with some clever directors or people from art, and I steal this line or two from them, and I think I know what they're talking about. But when I come to the set, I see that I don't know what they're really talking about. So I believe that also talking about films is so difficult, because when you're like making this sex scene that we were speaking about earlier, and after what I've said, I was thinking a lot about that, and I was thinking like, what? I mean, shit. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing, right? I mean, it was, yeah, we have it all planned, but at the same time, it's so difficult, when you have this, when you have the feelings of the actors. I mean, it's the same thing as in documentary, I believe, to not be good with people. I mean, to not use them. Also the actors, to not. I mean, it's the same. I believe as in documentary. To not. It's difficult not to use the actors. I mean, not to make them do something just for the money.
Yeah, that's interesting, especially in the art house cinema, actually, because it's different in Hollywood. You have roles, you have responsibilities that is much bigger, as well as money, of course. But it's interesting, actually, here in Kino Otok, the last 2 years we had some workshops in which we heard some great stories from people directly from Hollywood, like last year, costumeographer of Ridley Scott. And when you hear the levels of production, it's crazy, I was in one panel in Los Angeles about documentary films only, in which you can hear about level of production. Like for some documentaries, they said, for example, oh, you have great animation in the film, and they said, yeah, the authors, well, we started like with one animator, it didn't work, and then we had 20 animators in one room for 1 year, okay? So just to be clear, that's totally different kind of world. In art world, in the art house, in the European production, especially when you're doing in the art house films, I think the ethics, unlike in documentaries that we said it's much more about the human aspect, here it is about how do you deal, because especially if you're screenwriter and director, how to allow other people maybe to be your associates and to give them space maybe also. So,
yes, I also want to say, sorry.
No, but I know that you have this, you have, the DP is also your long-time associate or screenwriter or both.
Yes. Yeah, you want people to feel they're creating something. You know, you want them amused by your film, by your idea.
I had the impression that they're really happy. They're not like, you know, Marco is taking glory or we did something. They were so happy.
I think they are also, yeah, because they also have their input there. I believe they're making it, I mean, everybody has a veto, how do you say it, veto? I mean, everybody can say, I don't like this, and it's not in the film.
Wait a minute, everybody has veto for something, really?
Yeah, I mean...
You veto guys like Siniša, what's wrong?
I mean, it's so close friends, I mean, and if Stefan DOP says this scene is bad, it's not in the film. I mean, even if I like something, I mean, Stefan will not like it. I mean, and I cannot shoot it. I mean, he can hit record, I mean, on camera, but his face will be, you know, telling me everything that's not good. But I think in art films in Serbia, it's really fiction films. It's really big problem because there's so much money for films that are about socially, like people who are struggling socially, and I see it as a big problem. When you make $1 million film about,
okay. Well,
for me that's the biggest ethical problem in Serbia, because it cannot make for a good film. I believe.
That's honestly, that's not Serbia only. That's the European way of how fonts are. Well,
I don't understand this, because when you see the films that are talking about subjects that are, I mean, you see these films as opposed to Hollywood films, which are mostly done for fun, sometimes for good fun. But you see these films are kind of important films in terms of like engaging audiences, and with these socially important topics, and I don't see how they can make films with that much money. Well, I don't understand.
Yeah, that's different. And maybe the next step, I want to ask about about the distribution of the films,
yes.
Your experiences with festival and everything. Before that, I would ask people to ask some other questions before we jump to distribution or reception of your film or future, especially right now that everything is blocked. Any questions? Yes, one more.
Yeah, I have a question for everybody actually. Can you name one or two most important things that make a successful film project? For example, is it about, I mean, if I sum up, I can see that with all of you guys, it's about a very feasible kind of subject of the film, feasible in terms that you can make it. Is it about also some level of professionalization? Because I guess at some point you cannot film and distribute and sell and produce and everything by yourselves. So you do have to have some kind of team, even if you do a documentary. And then what I also think is is it that you make a film that has to be also successful with the viewers, with your public, or does it have to get, I don't know, awarded? Does that make a successful project for you? But also what I think is when do you guys think you can make a successful project that you can leave your day job? Because I see that it's more or less all of these movies have been made with a lot of enthusiasm, and I guess you all guys don't live from this project. So this is you don't make a living out of this project. So
yeah, okay. So you all heard the question, right? Yeah. So Eloy, do you want to start maybe with what's for you successful film, successful project? Is there one or two things to highlight? A recipe to be successful, right? That's for start.
Well, obviously I cannot answer to that, but I can tell you what I think that are two key elements in Hamada. Basically, because after 2 years traveling with the film and talking with people from many different countries, in the end, basically, there's two essential things that they always mention. One is the humor in the film. They are very surprised to see a humoristic film in a refugee camp in the middle of the desert in a very tragic circumstances. It was not an intentional humor, this is the way they communicate. This is young people. Even the community has this very sharp sense of humor, and it's in their daily life. So it was not forced. It was not. We didn't look for it. It was just there. So it works very well with people, because it's not less rough, the story and their context and everything, because of the humor, but for some reason makes people feel more empathy. And then the other thing is the three main characters. I mean, she is really amazing. She's a volcano. She's magnetic. She's electric. She's Zara. Sid Ahmed, one of the main characters, is very introspective, very expressive. He has this amazing look in his eyes. There's something really broken inside, and you can see it in every shot. And so there's many other things, but I would say that those are the two things that are always mentioned afterwards. Then there's the political aspect, the cinematography, a lot of stuff. But I would say that those are the things that made the film. I don't know if I don't feel very comfortable with the word.
I think the question was also based from the perspective of the young authors who still don't, are not map on the. They don't have they're spawned to the map. People don't know them, right? So if you're young author and or not young author, but somebody who's not experienced enough, maybe, or well connected, how do you recognize the subject that has potential? For example, you had your premiere in ITVAR, one of the greatest exclusively documentary film festival. So, in which moment you were aware that this film can go to some big festival, meaning having a lot of opportunity to be shown to the people? When did you realize that you have this kind of film? I mean, when you saw the subject, the maybe the exotic environment you have, or did you have any moment like this?
I don't want to sound obvious, but obviously we didn't think about festivals or whatever. I mean, I would put the question in a different way. I realized that I wanted to spend 4 years with these people, making the film or whatever, but I realized that I really wanted to spend these 4 years. So that was enough, And I guess my colleagues felt the same. I guess that Siniša felt I want to spend all the time needed with Christina, right? And Marko and Miloš felt the same. Like, I really want to invest a lot of my health even in this project, right? So that was enough. But I knew honestly it would be, I consider it's a good film, and I knew it was going to be a good film because they are amazing, these three people in this community. So it could be better or worse, but it would be good because they are good. So that was or at least that's what I told myself, and I believed it.
I think it's really wise, actually. It's really wise to approach things that way. That do I want to spend 2 or 3 years of my life on something? And if the answer is yes, then you can just you already have your goal, and then every success can be just a benefit, right? And I think that's a really healthy approach. But I also think it's important to have really, I mean, listen, when all of these 3 projects, if you say the lady who was killer for Gamora is getting out of the prison, we're following her intimate life. That sounds like a film that I will always want to watch, It's not only about skill to make a good plot line. It's just the essence of this film, right? Or with Hamada, we're going deep into the desert to explore the life that, or the guy is so insecure that he's a virgin at 28. I mean, come on, that's a film. So I think just to be aware of the arc, not classical dramaturgical arc, but just to be aware that you have the essence of the film plus this approach that I think really wise approach. Do you want to spend a few years on that? Yes.
Can I say something to that?
Yeah.
The first time I contacted my producers and I sent an email to them, it was a casualty. No, you don't say that. It was a coincidence that they entered in this film. The first time I wrote to them and I explained the film and I put the word refugee, they confessed to me many months after that they didn't want to know anything. Like, oh fuck, another film about the refugees, really? So they didn't reply to me for months, It was only when they saw the footage months after, by coincidence, that they entered the film. So I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, all the stories can be fascinating or all the stories can be pure shit, Of course, sometimes if you hear Yeah, you're right. I mean, when
I'm not
Siniša
talking only
was...
about a skill to pitch. That's important also aspect. But I'm not talking only about that. Because you can hear people talking about their mostly fiction films. And then these guys enter the room, and then these guys, and there is no awareness of where is the film there. I think this awareness, where is the film actually, not necessary to be narrative. It could be totally non-narrative movie, but where is the film in that there, together with what you said, readiness to stay. That's wise to do. And now success depends what success for you, I guess. What about you, Siniša? What's success for you? What was success?
I really don't like my films. Afterwards, when they're finished, maybe on the last, when it's finished, I like it, and then it means it passed. After the premiere, I hate it, and I don't, I never would watch my film. And I hope once I will like one of the films I will make. This is, for example, would be a successful film for me that I like it 1 year after. And this film I find successful because I learned so much. I really like, for example, some people like to go watch football games, I like filming real life, real stories. I really am, like people go to ski, people like this is really something that makes me internally happy. Time passes fast for me. So I don't, it's really something that I like to do. It's really some of the part of the happiness of my life. And that's also already the success for me, to spend quality time, when I'm spending times with my people that I'm now filming, it just passes so fast, and I'm never bored because I'm all the time framing. And and then I come home, and I always after every day of filming, watch the material before sleep. If I have energy, I just go, and I really like this. It's even, I'm really enjoying this. So this is, for me, this is the success, to have a quality life.
Yeah, but I think maybe My Morning Laughter is a great example of strange paths of success, let's say, or what we perceive as success. So we mentioned already this famous night in Belgrade that people just get, mostly filmmakers. That's crazy because in the small communities, like small cinema community, it's not about area Balkan or this or that, because I have a guy I know from Austria who had so successful films all around, from Hot Dogs and Itva, his documentaries. I said, hey, can you recommend me some festival in Austria? He said to me, can you recommend me some festival? He said, nobody likes me in Austria. And then you can see that when community is smaller, like 10 million or less people, there's a lot of jealousy, I guess, among filmmakers. It's maybe not in every country, but in many of countries like this. And then, of course, Serbia is like that also. And then you had this film that everybody was so shocked. What happened? What strange thing happened? Miloš, you can tell us about it. Your applications to the festivals before and after this night. So, because the local success actually helped you to have wider acceptance of the film, right?
Well, yeah, we after we finished the film, we applied to usual festivals, and the closest thing we got to a festival was really beautiful letter from the selector of Venice, which wrote us that she loved the film, but concerning that concept of the festival in last year, they don't have a space for the film, and it was really, really nice letter, but it only got us more depressed. And then we decided to make a national premiere first, and we premiered the film at Outer Film Festival.
Yeah, Outer Film Festival in Belgrade, that it's held in, this is important to say, that it's held in November, right? Yeah, it's November.
Yeah, end of November. And after the premiere, it was crazy. It was standing ovation for I don't know how long. So after that, Rotterdam, which was
that's
also...
why, that's why I mentioned November, because Rotterdam is in January, right?
Yeah. Rotterdam, which wrote us that they're considering the film, but they're not really sure about it. A friend of ours sent them the video from the
standing ovation,
and they decided to take the film. So it's really strange how we found ourselves there. So that was the first thing, and after that we decided that we will screen the film in in a limited distribution in Serbia. So
that's really interesting. Now, please explain, if you can give the context of how it works usually making art house films in cinemas.
Okay, everyone was talking about that film. It was some sort of, if you can say that, I don't know if I'm wrong, Dragan, but indie house hit, something like that. So we discussed with distributors in Serbia, with all main distributors, and they were nice. Some of them were nice to us, some of them didn't want to answer to us, but they didn't have the idea how to promote the film. They didn't want to put the money into advertising, and usually distributors don't give much attention to small films. So we decided, as we did everything by ourselves till then, that we will distribute the film by ourselves also. So we made limited distribution in Serbia, and it was really special, and I think something really good came out of it. There is a screen in center of Belgrade, which is oriented towards smaller films. So we made the projections once a week with the presence of the team, usually Marko and main actors, and everybody was really happy to be so with the audience each evening when we had the screenings. And we tried to make an event of every screening. It was not like regular distribution that you say.
Yeah. Just to add, to be clear, what happened actually. So film had premiere on this festival. It was like craziness. Wow. And then each Friday, you had only one screening, right? It's not. And each Friday was so full. So you had actually tens of premieres, because mostly you have this kind of atmosphere only on the premiere. So actually, again and again, each Friday, you had this frenzy audience coming to the film, watching the film, right? Because
and
for
usually
example,
discussing after.
Yeah, because mostly what classical distributors do, they put the film 1 week in the cinema, and if you don't have enough of screens, of course you don't have a lot of viewers, then statistic is bad, and based on statistics, they say, no, and film is only 1 week, but what if you're out of town, you don't see it, and then people ask you for links. That's how it works in art house. Can you send me the link? But with this film, it's every Friday there, right? And then you didn't see it this Friday, well, next Friday. Then for 2 months, or how long it was, maybe a month and a half.
Yeah, we decided our main formula is we'll treat it like a theater performance.
Yeah.
You have to go to theater only at that time, at that period, and you have the chance to meet the actors and authors. So that was sort of, we could say, something special in distribution in Serbia. And we got,
because it's not all about numbers, right? It's also about chance that is there film for
of course,
even for small audience.
Yeah, usually, as you said, it lives for a week, and with this approach, we extended its life till Corona started. So basically, it was 3 months instead of 1 week, I think.
It was quite elitistic in a way. Speaking of numbers, I mean, not.
Yeah, even there were when we started that, there were, I don't know, how do you call those guys, tapkaroshi?
Really?
People who resell the cards in front of the cinema. Yeah.
That was phenomenon in Yugoslavia in the 60s. Cinemas were so popular that you had people, like in the football games that are really important. You had people who were reselling the tickets in front of the cinema. So, well, okay. I mean, I guess you have good feeling about this, Marko, to have it. But tell me about Rotterdam. Because, of course, it was great success in Belgrade. In Rotterdam, Miloš told me you had great reactions from some people, but not so great from some other.
Yeah.
It was the cultural differences, or what was the main point?
Maybe the film. I don't know, really. People, I think, liked it, but they didn't find it funny at all. And so it's different kind of... I think also the part of because I'm so interested in words and nuances that like people, how people talk, and it's so difficult when you translate that it loses maybe something of the film, and then it becomes only maybe people can see only one part of the film, and I don't know, maybe. I also think that the actors are so good in this film. So in Serbia, people see it as a difference to the other actors that are popular right now. I mean, I'm talking about younger generation. So also it has a lot to do with that. I mean, they see different kind of acting, different kind of approach to acting, I believe. And they didn't believe that Serbian, they can hear speech so natural on the screen, you know. I think people thought it was impossible when you have these actors. And it's, and I want to only answer about this happiness part. I was so happy at the premiere, and also I was ashamed a bit, of course, but I was also happy because it was so good. I mean, people were all connected, and you can say, I mean, I believe that I will never ever have this kind of experience in my life. I mean,
I will tell you,
the moment was.
I didn't see film the first night, but I saw it the next night in the smaller cinema, and I can tell you, two ladies that were like 65, 70 plus years old, they were fighting about the seat. So the first scene in your film in this screening went with two ladies cursing each other about the seat. You know, it was such an atmosphere of.
Then it became like, it became popular. I mean, it became like a hot thing to see. I don't know about that, but like the first night, it was it felt more like a theater performance than people are shouting at the screen, you know, cheering, applauding for the main actor, and in this kind of serious film, art film, that's so good when people speak a lot during the screening. That was, for me, it was so good.
Okay, we need to slowly go to finish it, but I will just ask: is there any really important, the last question for somebody, or I can I can then ask maybe the closing arguments. Anybody? Eloy, do you want to say something that we didn't ask you?
Yes.
You know, is this adventure something that you want to repeat or something?
No, I just wanted to say something very important, the most important thing. I'm so sorry not to be there right now because this conversation is great. I really want to watch my colleagues' films. I was going to say something in private, like, can you send me a link? But I will not do it now after what I heard. I was there in 2016. It's one of my fucking favorite festivals. I was crying on Sunday when they told me I couldn't go. That's really, really important. And now I just listen to my colleagues and you talking, and I wish we had all this. I'm not saying anything a sad way. I'm so excited. After, you know, in Spain, this was really serious for a long time, and you know, this is like coming back to work as well, having these conversations. I hope the audience enjoyed this, but. It's been so beautiful to join this. It was not only to talk about the films; it was working again, you know, after like months here frozen, like at home and everything. I felt like, fuck, I'm back in the game. So thank you very much for this.
Miloš and Marko, something else to add maybe? Or?
Thank you. Nice to meet you people, really. Really. I'm so glad. Thank you.
It would be lovely to be there, but let's hope there will be another festivals and another better years. So I hope there's chance.
Siniša, something more important to say?
No, I'm also happy to meet you. Vas dva možete gledati na Beldoksu, je od slovenskog dokumentariste Mako Sajka retrospektiva, to će vam biti zanimljivo. Naš prvi dokumentarista, to možete vidjeti, morao biti tamo, ali me neće biti, tako da mi je...
Eloy's confused, yeah, it's something bad about
festival that starts next week.
Something bad about you, I guess, no?
And Eloy, I will send you the link afterwards.
Yeah, we can exchange links.
I was living in Italy, as I said, and I know Pozzuoli, so of course I feel a close connection with this. I was living with Napolitani. My flatmate were from Napoli, so of course. And in the case of Marko's film, it has a lot to do with the topic itself, masculinity, and this fragility and even sexuality has a lot to do with the project I'm working now. So when I saw the scene, I was like, oh, fuck. I need to watch this. So yes, please.
Yeah, of course, we will send each other. Great.
Yeah, I want to say only one more thing for the closing. I guess most of you people, maybe not you, Eloy, know who is Žika Pavlović. He's one of the greatest Yugoslav directors, you know, of all time, mostly productive in the 60s, late 60s and everything. So it's interesting about him that he did some films that were politically problematic in former Yugoslavia, in the late 60s. So he was, let's say, blacklisted in a way. But what's interesting, when you see his filmography, it looks like 66, 67, 68, 69. The same thing with Makavejev or Žilnik, with those guys who, during this political atmosphere that was authoritarian in a bit, they were producing. The reason for that was ideals. You had society that was not free of free speech and everything, but had ideals, meaning students should learn, workers should work, artists should create. And even if you're black, for Žika Pavić, for example, he had some problems in Serbia, he came to Slovenia. And then in the same country, you can find somebody. So my point is that when you have strong ideals, then it's much easier to create in continuity, even if you're not politically, on the road like your government or something. And we explored 3 projects that went some kind of uncertain circumstances to make the films, but I believe that we should like artists try to get back this kind of status, at least in this part of the world, that art is not charity for somebody to do to work, but it is our right, and it's the right of society to have art. So only the uncertain circumstances should be like this kind of crazy project that somebody goes deep into the desert or in the mafia family, or deep inside of himself in some small village. So I believe that that's why, thank you for sharing these adventures with us, because unfortunately we need them to try to be skillful to avoid all the problems that now will come in the new circumstances in Europe, I think, but in the world with cinema. But until there, we have these experiences to learn from, and thank you guys, thank you for the audience, and I hope it was interesting enough.
Kabbalah.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao. Ciao, ciao.